Hello, everyone. Just waiting for the signal to be up and running, checking it out on YouTube. Hi, I'm your KevinlyFather, and my name is Kevin Williams, and we're not getting a feed, and there it is. Okay, so Trump is going to speak at CPAC any minute now. What I just discovered was that apparently he gives some kind of press conference right before this. So I don't know when this press conference took place, except that it's within the last few minutes. I just happened to check out a channel, and there it is. So I'm thrilled. So we'll take a look at this. What I suspect is because this is CPAC, and CPAC is CPAC, and CPAC is C-crap, we will take a look and see nothing but friendly reporters in that room. That is my bet on this. I bet it will be one softball question after another. Mr. President, how come you were such a better president than Joe Biden? Mr. President, is Joe Biden asleep at the switch? Questions like that. Mr. President, well, how come you went to East Palestine and gave them water, and Joe Biden hasn't gone yet, and yet they're all being stomped on the neck by Joe Biden's policies? Mr. President, the guy who deregulated energy and the trains. Yeah, okay, anyway, let's get right into it. Hi, Babe. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. So if you're watching this delayed, this is, it's March 4th, 2023, and Trump is about to speak at CPAC. This is him beforehand. Let's find out.
Hello, everybody.
Mr. President.
The audio is only coming out of one of my ears. That's the feed, not me.
Good to see you.
Hi, Phyllis. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Shelley.
We have a fantastic crowd out there, as you probably see. Sold out, like about 5 times over. So
you can't sell out 5 times over. Sold out is good. Just stay. He always has to go better than reality. And that's actually, if you listen to the Trump tapes, and if you read Mary Trump's book, this is his family. This is how his father was. No matter what, if there was a rainbow in the sky, there were 10 rainbows. Because it's Trump's world. Hi, Libby.
So that's an honor, and we're doing very well.
So once you sell out, that's good. You can't sell out 5 times over. If you have sold out 5 times over, that's fraud.
Go ahead. Any questions?
Mr. President. So I have a question for you, Mr. President. If Ron DeSantis is such a fraud... Ron DeSantos. This is probably filled with RSBN reporters. It is Ron DeSantis, by the way. It is George Santos in Congress who is lying to everybody. As far as I know, there's no Ron DeSantos to be concerned about. Am I wrong? Does he pronounce his way that way? His way that way. Does he pronounce his name that way? I'm tired, people. I only slept for like 7 hours last night and then another 35 minutes. I just woke up from a nap. Why am I tired? I'm so old. Here we go. Why did you endorse...
Tell me if the audio is okay for you guys, because it's only coming in one ear for me. And I know I just checked the feed before this, not this feed, but in general, we're good on the audio. I want to make sure that you guys are hearing it okay, because it's very quiet and it's only in one ear.
For governor, did you make a mistake?
No.
Okay, I want to hear that question again, because I interrupted that. So let's try it again.
DeSantis is such a fraud.
Go ahead. Any questions?
Mr. President. So I have a question for you, Mr. President. If Ron DeSantis is such a fraud, why did you endorse him for governor? Did you make a mistake?
If Ron DeSantos is such a fraud, why did you endorse him for governor? Did you make a mistake? Hey, Rhonda. So, Rhonda DeSantis, Rhonda, with those white boots. I like these kinky boots. It's my favorite thing about Rhonda. You know what? It's not an insult to give somebody a female name. Although, if it is him and he's doing Drag Time Story Hour, Trump is very quiet? Okay, God. No one has ever said that in the history of the universe, Shelley. Let's pump him up a little bit here. And again, the feed is really quiet on my part. Let me do this. I can adjust the YouTube feed. Let me make sure that's at full volume. I can pump it up artificially. It's going to take me a minute here, guys. Give me a second. And let's see if I've got anything here that'll pump up the volume for it. I used to. And there is now... That extension must have been banned by Chrome. So... okay, I will pump up the volume on my end all the way. I hope this is loud enough for you.
No, I'm very happy I endorsed him for governor because the alternative would have been very bad. He was a disaster, as it turned out, and the alternative would have been very bad. Now, Florida's
He's low energy Trump right now.
doing well. Florida's done well for a long time, and no, I'm very happy about it.
Mr. President,
Yeah, that's not the question. So, are you happy about endorsing Ron DeSantis? He didn't answer the question, but he doesn't. I'm very.
one of the people we talked to.
The RNC has said that you might have to sign a loyalty pledge to participate in their debates. Is that something you would do, or else?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just hearing about it for the first time, about the loyalty pledge. There are probably people that I wouldn't be very happy about endorsing, running. So we'll see. I think some of them I won't use.
It's just a standard answer. We'll see what happens. If I like it, I'll do it. If I don't like it, I won't do it. That's his standard. We'll see what happens. Remember, a long time ago, I said that would be a great title for a book about his presidency. We'll see what happens.
Names. I don't want to insult anybody, but some of them
I don't want to insult anybody.
I would not be very happy about. So we'll have to think about that.
Mr. President, when
You've run on taking down the establishment. Do you think your biggest opponent is another candidate or the Murdoch-McConnell-Ken Griffin machine?
I think that we have lots of opponents and we have lots of friends. And you see the friends by the amount of people here right now. People are camping out overnight. They've been here for 3 days. They didn't even come in. They just wanted to see this particular speech, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. No, I don't think we have a lot of opponents that are going to be effective.
Mr. President, James Rosen with Newsmax. I
Hi.
have two questions about
Yes.
the election, if you'd indulge me. This campaign for the presidency unfolds against a backdrop in which, unlike the previous ones, you face multiple criminal investigations into your activities. I know that you have dismissed these as political.
This could be the guy who asked the question, is President Biden woke? To wit, is President... So it could be the wit guy.
Partisan witch hunts, and that you maintain your complete and total innocence. Nonetheless, we are given to believe that one or more of these investigations may soon approach their resolution in terms of the or what have you.
This has got to be that guy. Or handing down of indictments or what have you.
To assure your donors and your supporters that you're in this race to stay no matter what happens with those investigations if you are indicted one or more times?
Sure. Well, they did 2 phony impeachments, and we won that, and the Republicans stuck together, and we won, as you know, we went up very substantially in the polls. These are witch hunts. These have been going on for a long time. They've weaponized justice in our country. It's a disgrace, and I think people are very angry about it. Even Democrats are very angry about it.
So you'll stay in the race?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't even think about leaving. These are fake stories. These are horrible. The press is pressing them to do something, do something.
The press is pressing them. He knows all the best words.
And I think it's very sad for our country. I think it's very dangerous for our country. And people, I can say that, you have thousands of people outside, and you didn't have that for others. They're very upset and very
Why outside? There should be nobody outside at CPAC.
angry about it. It's just a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. And we turned around our country. We did a fantastic job, and now our country is going to hell. And this comes largely from the Justice Department, or as I call it, the Injustice Department.
Oh, that's so clever.
It starts there. They've even weaponized the local agencies and the local DAs and attorney generals. They put people from the...
Like, how? How would the Department of Justice do that? How would you take every cop in this country, every DA in this country, and somehow weaponize them? Somehow turn them around from their lifelong goal and dream of becoming a DA and doing justice to flip-flopping that entirely just to get Trump? How? How is that possible?
Justice...
Oh, and then you have to convince everybody to vote for them instead of someone who's pro-Trump. How?
Department in the Manhattan DA's office. I mean, think about that. They're racists. You got a lot of racists. You got a lot of race baiting. It's a disgraceful thing that's going on. The country's never seen anything like it.
Never seen the racism like we've seen in today's country. That's for sure. Wow.
And yeah, probably it'll enhance my numbers, but it's a very bad thing for America. It's very bad for the country.
Mr. President, real quick, let's talk about your policy. You just...
Okay, so now I know what's going on. RSBN has their stereophonic microphone, or they've got two microphones plugged in, one for the room and one in my left ear just for their guy. Sounds like Brian from RSBN. So he is loud and clear, everybody. I apologize for, I'm not apologizing. Fuck that. It's entirely on them. But we're getting their feed and they're broadcasting it, and I do appreciate RSBN for doing that.
Just announced you'll be on Iowa.
Oh, wow, that's loud. Sorry, guys. Let me turn him down. I'm going to have to mess with this. Sorry.
On March 13th to talk about your America First education.
America First. Did he really said America? I don't think there's an A in there. Let's listen again.
Announced you'll be on Iowa on March.
He'll be on Iowa. So check out Iowa on your local TV screen.
President, real quick, let's talk about your policy. You just announced you'll be in Iowa on March 13th to talk about your America First education
Yeah, America First
policy. Would you care to elaborate on that?
Well, I'm going to have a very long statement on that.
That's a good question. Would you care to elaborate on something?
And we're going to be doing things that are, I think, going to be very, very beneficial. I was going to do it probably second term, and then we had a great election. We got 12 million more votes than we got the first time. We did
and lost. That's not really a great election, is it?
much better than we did the first time. I keep saying that because people have to understand it.
Okay, Marcy says, someone posted a Craigslist ad for paid seat fillers for today. That's not real. This has been sold out for several months.
Far better. Any pollster would have said, if you get that number, you can't lose. But we were going to do this.
No pollster would have said that because they would have known that someone who gets fewer votes than the other guy loses.
I would like to just about end the Department of Education. It's time. The country does very well in some ways, but very badly in others.
He would just about like to end. There's no committal on anything. Well, we'll see what happens. You know, on one hand, the Department of Education needs to go just about. We'll see what happens.
We did fantastically in everything. We did as good as you can do in education, but you have to get rid of the Department of Education, close it up.
You closed the schools, remember? That was you. That was you and your Department of Education.
When you look at the list of countries, we're always at the bottom. We spend more money per pupil, and we're always at the bottom of a list of 40 countries.
We're not. It's not great, but we're not.
And we should close it up and let local areas and, frankly, states handle education. I don't know if that's good.
Okay, but they've also said that if they get back into power, they're going to make sure that local areas have to do things their way. They've said that local school boards and even principals will be appointed by parents.
Politically to say...
Not just voting but like teachers, for example. Your son's teacher could be voted out of office.
Or bad politically to say, but that's the way it's going to be. We're going to close it up.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Ron DeSantis has not entered this presidential race yet, but he appears to be your most...
Mr. President, running Santas. I like that. I like that. I like running Santas. That's when they do one of those pub crawls.
Significant challenger in a one-on-one matchup. A lot of the folks that we talk to out here say that they'd love to see a Trump-DeSantis ticket. What do you tell them? Would you consider asking Ron DeSantis right now to be your vice presidential pick?
Well, I've always...
Well, no. You don't ask for your vice presidential pick until you've won the presidency nomination. But, okay, sure.
had a great relationship
We'll see what happens.
with Ron. I was the one that made it possible for him to win. He was at a very low number, and after I endorsed him, he went up by a lot, and he asked me to do that. I've always had a good relationship with him, but it's much too early to talk about.
Why should he not be the presidential candidate for
That's actually correct. Trump just gave the right answer. It's much too early to talk about that.
Republicans?
Well, he can be if he wants to be.
Why should folks not turn to him if he makes the case of being a new generation?
Well, I think I've done something that nobody else has been able to do. We turned around this country. This country was never better. Our economy is the best in history. I rebuilt the military.
Not true. Not even close.
We got rid of the biggest regulation cut in history, the biggest tax cut in history.
He got rid of the biggest regulation cut in history, which is strange because he also brags about doing the biggest regulation cut in history. His words just flow. There's no meaning to them.
We did things that nobody else has done, and you wouldn't have had Ukraine.
That is true. He's done things that nobody else has done.
And Russia fighting, it would have not happened. Zero chance of it happening.
Okay, Russia occupied Crimea the entire 4 years of his presidency, and he did nothing about it. He got on stage and accepted a soccer ball from President Putin. The entire 4 years, again, Russia was in Crimea and they had Russian-supported fighters in the Donbass. The entire 4 years. Didn't lift a finger.
Now, as you know, China's looking at Taiwan, and President Xi, who's somebody I got along with very well, that would never have happened. They wouldn't be looking. Those bombers started going over and taking pictures of Taiwan the day I left, and should have never left, because frankly, that election, and people have to look.
He should have never left.
At it. They're going to be looking at it for a long time. It was a disgrace. It was a disgrace to our country. And I will say that all of the things, all of the great things we did, I don't think anybody else could have come close to doing them. And I think for the most part, we've been so rewarded. We've been rewarded with tremendous adulation. And it's not for me, it's for all of us. It's for the administration, but it's for the people. Make America great again. We put America first. And nobody's been able to do that. But maybe most important, in a certain way, we were respected like never before on the world stage. They listened. And again, Russia never would have done that. You look at the fact that we took out the ISIS caliphate.
And yet Joe Biden has increased the size of NATO.
Everyone said that was impossible to do. I did it in 3 weeks. Now I think we have a record that's really unsurpassed.
Mr. President, following on China, do you feel vindicated that even the FBI, which has been after you, obviously, is basically confirmed what you said first, that this may have been a Wuhan lab leak? And you're
okay, no, that's not what he said first. He praised President Xi. This is the one tweet that I just keep so it's ready to go at any time. China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. This is right at the beginning. This is 24th of January in 2020. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi. So he didn't say that it was a lab-created virus right to begin with. That's complete nonsense. The time to investigate was right then at the beginning. Now, 3-4 years later, it's rather difficult.
You're also the only candidate that I know of who has spoken aggressively about holding China accountable. If you're elected again, what would you do to make China pay for that?
I'll make them pay 10 billion, 25 trillion, $50 trillion, all the money that exists in the world.
Well, Ed, I said very early on this.
They should be punished in some way, in some amount, someplace, and we should do something. We'll see what happens.
This is Wuhan lab. That's where it came from, and I was criticized for saying it. A lot of people said, oh, that's a terrible thing to say because he didn't know. I felt it very strongly. I never changed my view. You know that.
Nope, that's not true. We just saw your tweet.
And it turned out to be Wuhan lab. It is Wuhan lab. I don't.
No, we don't know that. No one really knows that for sure. Even departments, and different departments within the federal government. First off, there's been the investigation by the federal government. Inconclusive. Different departments have different ideas of what might have happened. Inconclusive. Even the most recent Department of Energy declaration that it came from the lab is only with low confidence. That's it. We think it's probably, maybe, from there. We're not really sure. But anyway.
I don't care what they say. They say Department of Energy made a statement. And
yes, that's what I just said.
Some other department made it. That doesn't matter. I felt it was...
Oh, it does matter. But no, he's right. We don't really know, but he knows because he had a feeling.
Wuhan lab, that's where it came from. I also think they made a horrible mistake. Somebody blew it, whether you call it
Who blew it? Who was in charge back then? Who would that be, Mr. Former President?
Incompetence or anything else, because obviously...
No, you can call it incompetence. I agree with you. Definitely incompetence.
And you've seen it more so in the last year than you did before. China's been hit very, very hard, but it was a terrible...
Okay. But the last year part, that's been under Biden.
Mistake. It came from there. Yeah, and there should be, in some way, there should be something paid to the world.
In some way, there should be something paid to the world. We'll see what happens. In some possible way... Just nope, nothing concrete.
The world lost $50 trillion. That's the way I estimate.
Okay, 50 trillion now. It was 10 trillion. Now it's up to 50 trillion, which I think I just said that.
$50 trillion. China doesn't have $50 trillion or anything close.
No, that's, again, all the money in the world.
But something should be done for the world by...
Okay, as long as it's something.
China, because
They should erect a statue.
what they put the world through is a terrible, terrible.
Quick follow.
thing.
Are you surprised that Joe Biden still has not been to East Palestine? You went there.
Didn't I just say that? Yeah, Joe Biden still has not been to East Palestine, which, by the way, is not really under the federal government's purview. He has talked to Governor DeWine and said, hey, anything you need, you got it, buddy. It's all yours. It's not a natural disaster when a train goes off the track. A train, we don't know this for sure. We don't know for sure, but we have high confidence, I do, that that train wreck wouldn't have happened if Trump hadn't deregulated the train industry.
You kind of shamed the transportation sector into going. You brought your own water.
He shamed Pete Buttigieg into going. You brought your own water.
It's been over a week since you were there, and he still hasn't been.
Well, he's been in Ukraine? The first president ever to go to a war zone without the support of U.S. troops? During air raids? But yeah, no, he should have gone to East Palestine. By the way, folks in East Palestine, you've been screwed 7 ways on Sunday. Terrible situation. I am not making light of the situation in East Palestine. Thank my lucky stars that I'm not there with you. But Biden going there doesn't help you. In fact, the local resources should be focused on helping you live, not protecting a president who flies in for an hour and a half, talks to a couple of supporters, and leaves. He might do that in the upcoming days. I don't know. But it doesn't really do anything for you. Again, not a natural disaster. FEMA is not, that's not FEMA's responsibility. That's a state matter.
Well, I'm surprised that he hasn't gone. I think he should go. It shows spirit. It shows...
Oh, as long as he's showing spirit. Sure, yeah. No, then he should definitely go. By the way, Trump, remember, back after right after he was booted out of office, he said he was going to go, told Hannity, he said he was going to go to the southern border. Still hasn't been.
A little unity. It was an area that voted very much for Trump, but that doesn't really... I go to areas that didn't necessarily vote so much for me. I think he's making a big, big mistake by not going.
Mr. President,
It sends a very bad signal.
Mr. President, thank you for taking my question, sir.
I'm not sure what signal it sends. Does anybody know what signal it sends by Biden not visiting East Palestine yet?
Unlike the current administration, when you were in office, you held Vladimir Putin in check, sir. Thinking back to your time...
Again, Vladimir Putin wasn't in check. He was in Crimea.
And was there anything that you said or did that you believe struck enough fear in his heart to hold him in check?
Enough fear in his heart.
Well, he knew there'd be retribution if he went into Ukraine. He knew that. He was told...
He was in Ukraine! All 4 years. He was in Ukraine. Crimea is in Ukraine. Trump has no idea that's the case.
That very strongly by me. I had a very good relationship with him, but he understood that. And I said, just don't do it. He wasn't going to do it. There was zero chance. Because this all, if you look at the border forming and everything else with the soldiers, he did this after I was gone. It would have never...
Yes, the border was formed with the soldiers. Yeah, no, that did happen after you were gone. That is correct. But again, he was in there the whole 4 years.
Never happened. It's one of the saddest things because so much. You wouldn't have inflation. You wouldn't have a lot of different things. But one of the things you wouldn't have had is Russia invading Ukraine. And when I see all of those tens of thousands of people being killed on both sides, tremendous numbers of soldiers on both sides, you look at the destruction where cities are leveled to the ground. There's no city left. I mean, a lot of these areas are just gone. It'd take you 50 years to rebuild them. Those beautiful buildings, those ancient buildings with the gold domes, and they're knocked down to the ground in smithereens snow. It's a very, very sad thing. It could have been, and it would have been very easy. At the same time, and I'll be talking about it in the speech, I could settle that situation in 24 hours.
Okay, do it. Nothing's stopping you. You went with your little presidential seal on your shirt to East Palestine. Go to Ukraine. Go. No one is stopping you from going. Call up Putin.
As president, I could settle it in
tens of thousands of lives lost on both sides. He could fix it in 24 hours. He's not doing it. Why?
In 24 hours. It would not be tough to settle.
If it's not tough, do it.
And that's something that demands settlement now. People are dying, and it's only going to get worse. Ukraine is being blown up, all of its cities, all of its places, all of its energy area. They're all being blown. Everything's being blown to
Well, not everything, but yes, it's terrible. It's bad.
smithereens. And it really has to have it now. And by the way, Russia's
It really has to have it now.
taking big lumps also in many different ways. So that's something that
Russia is taking big lumps in many different ways. And you're the guy who can solve the big lumps.
could be settled in 24 hours if people knew what they were doing.
Okay, but why don't you do it?
Mr. President, Mike Pompeo here yesterday talked about how the right shouldn't follow celebrity leaders, those with fragile egos who refuse to acknowledge reality. Was he talking about you? Do you have a response?
No, I don't think he was talking about.
Mike Pompeo said something about not following celebrity leaders who refuse to follow reality or respond to reality or something. That's what I heard. Anyway, that's the question.
I don't consider myself
Oh, was he talking about you is the question.
a celebrity leader. I consider myself a leader of the country, but I don't.
I don't consider myself a celebrity leader. I consider myself a leader of the country. I really was anxious to hear, what's he going to say? Well, if you're not a celebrity leader, what kind of leader are you? I'm a leader of a thing. Okay.
Consider myself a celebrity leader. I didn't do this for celebrity. Maybe it helped me get elected. Who knows? But I don't consider that. I consider myself a person that was president for 4 years, and we had record business, record employment. We had the strongest economy in history.
That's not true.
And I really did it twice because we then got hit by the China virus, and I had to rebuild it again, and I gave over a stock market that was higher than just before the virus came in. So, no.
Right, and now it's higher again.
I don't think so. I can't imagine he was talking about
Should the
it.
Mr. President, should Kamala Harris, should Vice President Harris, in your view, when the electoral votes from the 2024 election are certified in the Congress, have the power, when that's happening, to reject Republican electoral votes?
Well, you know, they did have a certain power. They certainly had the power to send it back, because right after everything was over, and they all said they didn't have it, and I said, well, our vice president isn't supposed to be a conveyor belt. If they find something wrong, they should do something about it. But
that's never been the way. There are strict rules, and it's not even the vice president. It's the president of the Senate. So whoever's the president of the Senate at that day and is available, and that's often the vice president if they're in town. But if the vice president's out of town, it just has to be the president of the Senate.
But the change, as you know...
If there's no vice president, then, I mean, if the vice president isn't there on any given day in the Senate, which is rare that the vice president's there unless you have a tied Senate, like we just did in the last chamber's elections, the vice president is the president of the Senate, but if she's not around or they're not around, any president of the Senate, that's the way the law is written.
The Voting Act, they changed it right after. Now,
that's the Electoral Count Act of 1888. And now they've solidified it so that it's very apparent. No, the president, vice president, of course, can't decide who the president gets to be. This isn't a one person decides who's president country.
I said, why did you change it if he couldn't do anything?
Because there's some idiots out there who misinterpreted it.
They said, well, he could do something. It turned out...
No, they never said that. No one has said who voted to pass the new regulations well, it's not really regulations, voted to pass the new law, has said that the last vice president could have decided who was president. If that was the case, Joe Biden could have just said, yeah, no, Hillary's in.
Out that it was a big con job, but they changed it. And I wish Mike sent the votes back to the different states. I think you would have had a very different outcome.
Mr. President.
And by the way, that doesn't even make sense. Send the votes back for the electoral college. It doesn't. Then what? There's absolutely no way that the states then hold another election and then recertify things and send a different group of electors. That's not how it works. That's not how the laws are set up in each state. Every state would have to then decide to do things that way. Not a single state out of 50 or any of the territories have decided otherwise.
You posted up on Truth Social a really creative picture about Nikki Haley and the empty seats that were in the arena, and you said, hey, follow your heart. You want to follow up on that post?
No. I mean, I hope she had a nice
I haven't seen it. I don't care.
crowd, but it didn't look like it was very good. But I like Nikki, and she's got to follow her heart. I told her, follow her heart.
Gotcha. Should the U.S.
Okay.
Should the U.S.
What specifically will you do to end the war in 24 hours?
What specifically will you do to end the war in 24 hours? This is not going to be an answer.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you that, because if I told you
Oh, yeah, see?
that, I probably
what?
wouldn't be able to do it.
What? What sense does that make?
You know, we're playing a giant chess game here. We're not just, you know, I'll tell you exactly what I'll do. It would be so easy to settle that war. I could do it in 24 hours.
Then do it.
Now, you need to be president to do it. You have to be president. You need
well, then you should have won the last election. What about telling Joe Biden what to do? Why don't you give him a phone call?
Office, that power, that whatever it is.
Okay, we'll catch up with CPAC in a second here, Stephanie. Thank you.
That would be settled in 24 hours. And again, it never would have happened. It never, ever would have happened. Not even thinkable. But that could be settled in 24 hours, and that's what should happen. That war should be settled in 24 hours.
In the meanwhile,
then please call Joe Biden.
Would you encourage Congress to continue to provide aid to Ukraine?
I would say that Europe should start spending money. We're
It's not answering the question.
up to $140 billion, and they're at like 15
It's like 78 billion, but okay.
billion, 16 billion.
Thank you,
It's the
Stephanie.
old story, whether it's trade with Europe or any of the other things that we do. NATO, look, I got NATO. I got them to put up over $400 billion because when I got there, Europe wasn't paying for NATO. You know that. I mean, it just weren't paying. And I got
That's not true.
them to put up $447 billion in a very short period of time. They wouldn't have the money to be fighting Russia right now if it wasn't for me. But what I don't like seeing is that...
No. The Ukraine is not in NATO.
The United States is in for...
Man's just an idiot.
And you hear a lot of different calculations. You hear 100, you hear 90, you hear 114, you hear 140 today. But we're in for, let's say, 140.
I heard 78 a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. But okay, whatever. It's in. Yeah, we're in for a lot of money.
$billion, and they're in for less than 25. And it affects them more. So one of the things I like is at least let's not be called a stupid country. And that's what they call.
That's right. I like that. I also don't want to be called a stupid country, which is why I cast my vote not for you.
Us, because we're defending that whole situation, and it affects Europe much more than us. Germany's not paying its share. Other countries are not paying its share. And the United States is really taking the whole load, and it's not right. And
yeah, Trump loves it when things take the whole load.
you know, you could sit down with these other leaders. I know all of them, or most of them, and within 10 minutes, they would agree to pay if you said the right things to them. But they're not paying, we're paying, and that's unfair.
Remember, Trump said they would stop supporting NATO. They would pull out of NATO if the countries didn't pay.
Nikki Haley was in your administration, and others who served under you are potentially getting in the race as well. What sort of message does that maybe send about you or their views of your leadership?
Well, I really say the more the merrier. I mean, they think they did a good job. And I think a lot of them did a good job, too. Most of them aren't running. You know, you have a few that are running. They're very ambitious people. But they think they did a good job, and I say the more the merrier. We had great people in the administration. We had some I didn't like too much, but in terms of their performance, usually I got rid of them. I'd say you're fired and get somebody else. But we had...
Usually he got rid of them, but sometimes he didn't.
Great people. When you think of the economy we built, when you think that I rebuilt the military, I knocked out ISIS, I did so many different things. We had a lot of great...
President Donald J. Trump.
Oh, hold on. We got to block out the song here. And now here's President Trump. And he's going to walk around and point at people. And proud to be American. And at least I know I'm free. He's going to talk about how the crowd is the biggest crowd and people are waiting outside. They're not.
I also want to, we have so many people here. I'm going to leave out some, but they'll understand. We have a lot of Congress, a lot of Senate, a lot of everything, but we'll do a few words and a few names. Diana Harshbarger. Thank you, Diana. Congress.
Okay,
Things under his belt.
We'll skip by his thanks.
Almost won for governor of New York. Yost. A lot of television lately, and he does a fantastic. I don't know. You beat all these U.S. politicians. That's pretty good. And his son, who's a friend of mine, Brazilian Chamber of Deputies, Eduardo Bolsonaro.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Hi, Eduardo. Great job you're doing. Just got reelected. And somebody that we really like in this room, I think. I certainly like him a lot. He had a lot of courage. Very smart guy. James O'Keefe. Where's that?
Who's been kicked out of Project Veritas. Okay.
News media. That's a lot of this ground for criminals.
Okay, here we go.
Been engaged.
Okay.
But the greatest in our movement,
All right, you might be done thanking people now. Here we go.
Thank you, James. Good guy. As we gather today, our country and our movement, the greatest political movement in the history of our country. There's nobody going to even question it. Even the
Wow, he went off script really quickly. As we gather today, our country and our movement, the greatest
fake news media. That's a lot of fake news back there. And by the way, I want to thank the fire department. Look at these people. They're up the rafters. Thank you, fire department. But the greatest
for letting people be in there
in our history, most important battle in our lives is taking place right now as we speak. For 7 years, you and I have been engaged in an epic struggle to rescue our country from the people who hate it and want to absolutely destroy it. The sinister forces trying to kill America have done everything they can to stop me, to silence you, and to turn this nation into a socialist dumping ground for criminals, junkies, Marxists, thugs, radicals, and dangerous refugees that no other country wants. No other country wants them. If those opposing us succeed, our once beautiful USA will be a failed country that no one will even recognize, a lawless, open borders, crime-ridden, filthy communist nightmare. That's what it's going, and that's where it's going. I used to say that we will never be a...
Got to make sure to have the RSBN logo in there as well. One of the worst things about Trump is that he has turned refugees, the people that Jesus would have hung with, he's turned the refugees into evil. They are the others. They are the ones coming to kill your children. Refugees in Trump's world. And within a few months, he had turned the word refugee as someone who's seeking refuge in the United States, someone who can build this country, someone who has lost everything in their life, has lost their country. And now they're dangerous. Horrible person.
Socialist country, I said it oftentimes. I said it once at the State of the Union address, and people didn't understand what I was saying. But I'd shout it out loud, and I was right, because that train has passed the station long ago of socialism. It never even came close to stopping, frankly.
Okay.
We're now in a Marxism state of mind, a communism state of mind, which is far worse. We're a nation in decline. Our enemies are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. They know that. This room, so important, the people in this room. They know that we can defeat them. They know that we will defeat them, but they're not coming after me. They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way.
No, they're definitely coming after Trump.
That's all I'm doing. I'm standing in their way.
That's all he's doing. Not going to do anything else to stop the people from coming after his people. That's all he's doing. He's just standing in their way.
And that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm standing before you, because we are going to finish what we started. We started something that was a miracle. We're going to come.
Okay, we're going to switch feeds here because RSBN...
Or when Hunter comes to him and says, Dad...
Okay, we're going to switch feeds to another feed. Give me a second here, because what happens when RBSN finishes their feed, they cut it off. And we're going to be behind at that point because we're doing an in-depth dive into this.
True American patriots, and that's what you are. and want to absolutely destroy it. The sinister forces trying to kill America have done everything they can to stop me, to silence you, and to turn this nation into a socialist dumping ground for criminals.
I think we did we watch this part? Dangerous refugees? Yeah.
Junkies, Marxists, thugs, radicals, and dangerous refugees.
Yeah, dangerous refugees. We saw this. That was a couple of minutes ago, so let's jump ahead. Here we go.
We're not going to lose you. In 2016, we took away the power of this corrupt political class, and we did more in 4 years than any administration in the history of our country. If you look at what we did. We shut down the illegal foreign invasion at our borders and achieved the most secure border in U.S. history. We deported illegal
Not true.
criminal aliens by the tens of thousands. MS-13, taking them out by the thousands. We set records every single week. We were cleaning up our country. I smashed the false idols of the free trade fanatics. These are fools, or they're getting very rich, probably the second. And left the China lobby reeling from our historic tariffs and taxes that we charge them, bringing in...
No, that crippled the economy. That's why the economy was down to 2.4% GDP growth when he left office. It did get as high as 3%. It's 3.3. And he said it was going to go to 4 or 5. He didn't see a reason it wouldn't go to 6, possibly higher, but he didn't want to say anything because he didn't want the media to criticize him. Never got above 3.3. He inherited 3.3% from Obama. And then he brought it all the way down to 2.4% before COVID. And then, of course, COVID, everything crashed.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
And a part of that was the tariffs he put on China. Then he had China sign a bunch of deals, which, of course, China has completely reneged on.
Pouring into our treasury from China. Thank you very much, China.
No, they weren't pouring into the treasury from China. They were, in fact, charged to importers. Those are usually American companies bringing them in and then paid for by people living here in America.
When no other president had gotten even 10... Thank you very much, China. When no other president had gotten even 10 cents, not one president got anything from them. Our trade
That's also not true. That doesn't make any sense.
deficits were 500, 600, 700. President got anything from them. Our trade deficits were 500, 600, 700 billion dollars a year.
They weren't.
Billion, think of it, dollars a year. Not sustainable by any country. They built their military, and they have a very powerful military with the money that we gave them. How stupid are we?
Well, we wanted cheap products. That's what happened. And that's been a problem for decades, but that's another question.
The only president in modern history who did not have any new wars. No new wars. I finished some old ones.
He didn't finish any wars. Remember, he left before Afghanistan was done. Biden finished Afghanistan. And this is such nonsense. First off, Russia was already in Crimea. There were many wars going on around the planet. No, he didn't engage in any new wars with other countries, but he did bomb other countries. And they were applauding him for that. For not standing up for anybody.
Remember when the Democrats and my Republican opponents would often look at me during the debates or whatever, and they'd say, no, he's going to bring us into World War III because it's a personality type. They said I had the personality. No, I had the personality type that kept us out of wars because people knew that they weren't going to mess around with us.
No, because he didn't want any blame for anything. That's how he works. And it's all from his dad, too. His dad was just a monster.
That's why I rebuilt our military. We were strong, we were safe, and I told delinquent foreign nations, they were delinquent, they weren't paying their...
Oh, that's why they call them delinquent foreign nations? Because they're delinquent? Thank you.
...bills, that if they...
Oh, is that what that means? Delinquency? Not paying your bills? God, he is America's teacher, even out of office. Go.
They wanted our protection. They had to pay up, and they had to pay up now.
Hi, Gallon.
And they did. They paid $450 billion as soon as I said, no, I won't be protecting you if you don't pay.
That's just a made-up figure.
We truly had a policy of peace through strength. This was a serious, powerful...
As every American president has since the Monroe Doctrine, excuse me. Wow.
Policy, and we didn't have to lose our loved ones fighting wars in countries that nobody's ever heard of. I stood firm against the forces of anarchy and decay.
You know, pretty sure everybody in those countries has heard of those countries, and anybody with an education has ever taken a geography class, who's ever looked at a globe, opened an atlas.
I arrested the Marxists who toppled statues of our great heroes in Washington, D.C. We arrested them. They were knocking down the most beautiful artwork, the most beautiful statues of great heroes. They didn't even know who they were doing. They just wanted anarchy, and I passed and signed an executive order. Anybody that does that gets 10 years in jail with no negotiation. It's not 10, but it turns into 3 months.
You don't pass an executive order. It's not a law. The law already existed. All he said in his executive order was, hey, we should do this. It was already in place. The law existed. So the executive order did absolutely nothing.
And it's an incredible thing that stopped right away. You know, they were heading to the Jefferson Memorial. They wanted to take out Thomas Jefferson. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to let that happen. But we passed it. It was a very old law, and we found it. One of my very good...
Oh, someone found it. They found the law. It was buried in the archives of the National Museum of Congress, and some very good people, a guy named Nick Cage, right out of Central Casting. We love Nick Cage. We love Nick Cage, people. We really do. Nick Cage found the law with the magic sunglasses that I helped him find, and we went down in a cave, and we found the...
legal people, along with Stephen Miller, they found it. They said, sir, I don't know if you want to try and bring this back. I said, I do.
I do.
And as soon as we...
And with that, I was married to the lovely Nicolas Cage. Nicky Cage, I call him.
Passed it. That was the end. They just stopped. It's amazing. It's a miracle. We banned transgender insanity from our military.
Producer Rich, hi. Was just thinking about you the other day, in a good way.
And signed the world's first ban on critical race theory, long before anybody had even heard of the term.
He just made up the term and made it illegal before anybody had even heard of it.
All banned. Everything was good.
Oh, good. We've got Wayfair delivery. Admin, tell us how I'm deranged. Tell me where I'm wrong. If I get something wrong, admin, let me know. But back it up, buddy. But I'm happy to help you if you're here. And the more chat, the better, because it actually helps my channel.
When Biden came back in, this guy came in and he put everything right back in place where it was. We were paying these people hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in salary, among our highest paid people.
Who?
To teach all of this nonsense to our military yet.
The highest paid people are teachers? What the hell has he talked about? Just heard a study yesterday that teaching has not kept up with the economy at all. Teachers are now unpaid to almost 3 times what they are worth. And when you think about it, teachers are really the one barrier between children who are abused and their parents. There are terrible parents, lots of great parents out there, and there's all this talk about how the teachers are polluting the children and how they're teaching them all about Drag Queen Story Hour and how terrible they are. Teachers literally save thousands of lives a year. They are the canary in the coal mine of child abuse. And they don't make enough money. But anyway, apparently we're paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars. I got to get into teaching. What about subs? Could I just take in like $150K?
But it was all out. It was all done. There's only one president in
I don't know what that means.
history who has ever taken on the entire corrupt establishment in Washington.
What?
And when we win in 2024, we will do it again, even stronger, faster, and
and apparently lost.
better, because
Because you're not president. Trump. Yep.
Because now I am experienced and I know the people of Washington. I didn't know them. I was from New York. I only came.
He said before when he was running in 2015 and 2016, I don't need experience. I have a big brain. But apparently you do need experience, so he's wrong about that. But he's never wrong.
Came here 17 times, they said. I read that in the fake news, so probably it's not true, but
what?
It's the best I could do. And I never stayed over. I was from New York, but I now know the good ones, the bad ones, the weak ones, the strong ones. I know them all. I know the people that have to do the job and can do the job a lot.
Okay, but you didn't fix it while you were there. You had 4 years to rid the deep state. Or I should say, rid the country of the deep state, but didn't do it.
A lot of them are in this room right now. And as I did for
Wait, the good
can
ones?
do the job, a lot of them are in the... I know them all. I know the people that have to do the job and can do the job. A lot of them are in this room right now.
Oh, okay.
And as I did for 4 incredible years, I will put America first every single time, every single day. From the beginning, we have been attacked by a sick and sinister opposition, the radical left, communists, the bureaucrats,
They're now communists. They're no longer Democrats. They're just communists. Okay.
fake news media, the big money special interests, the corrupt Democrat prosecutors. Oh, they're after me for so many things. Oh, those
Thank you, Mac. I appreciate it.
prosecutors. Some are racists. Some hate our country. They all hate me. They'll get me for anything. You put a comma in this.
Hey, thanks go out to Rich Mac. I did get that. Donated on PayPal. You're too kind, sir. You really are. This is why we miss you. Uh-oh. Everything's gone. Hold on. I got the money from Rich, and I'm like, okay, we're done, folks. That's it. I'm moving on. There it is. Here we go.
Paragraph, why did you do that? I don't really know.
What?
Put a comma in this paragraph. Hate me. They'll get me for anything.
Yeah.
You put a comma in this paragraph. Why did you do that? I don't really know.
Doesn't know why he put the comma in the paragraph.
The partisan and often corrupt intelligence agencies, the George Soros money machine that spends a lot of money on the prosecutors, by the way.
Oh, is that what they do? Their money machine that spends money?
The Antifa thugs who are allowed to roam the streets while we have people that in many cases are great patriots.
Who stormed the Capitol and tried to overturn the results of a duly run election. Yeah.
Great patriots.
Yeah.
Saying prayers every night, playing our national anthem every day, and they're sitting
in prison?
In a jail nearby, rotting away.
In prison, playing our national anthem. Have they, like, invented instruments? Are they using their spoons on the walls in the prison, on the bars? I want to hear that. I hope that's true.
And being treated so unfairly, like nobody's probably ever been treated in this country before, except maybe me.
I mean, I think that people who've been put to death or people that were in slavery their entire lives, they may have been treated unfairly. Some of them. Some of them, probably.
And Marjorie, you've been so fantastic on that issue.
He's talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Where's Marjorie? You've been so fantastic on that issue. And Elise and Matt. People.
Tracy says, you know they did the singing prisoners for the commercial, right? No, I don't know what that's about.
That love our country, people that love our country have been so great on that issue. And the perverts who use the names of Washington and Lincoln to buy millions of dollars in ads to say bad, libelous, and incorrect things about it.
What? Suddenly there's music or something playing and people are booing? There might be... I don't know what's going on. I don't know. There's a protester that said something. If someone's on Twitter and sees what happens, let me know. I lost my feed on that side. Okay, now I'm back. Yes, it's USA. Great.
I didn't know this was a rally, Matt. It really is a rally when you, by the way, thank you for that beautiful straw poll. That was a big win. Thank you.
He's talking about Matt Schlaff, who's been accused by another worker or something. I don't pay too much attention to it. But anyway, he's been accused of groping a male employee or some such round about the 2020 election. But anyway, there you go.
Our enemies are lunatics and maniacs. They cannot stand that they do not own me. I don't need them. I don't need anything about them. I don't need their money. They cannot steer me. They cannot shake me. And they will never, ever control me. And they will never, ever, therefore, control you.
I see, because you control these people. Got it. Those people. There's Carrie Lake, by the way. Matt Schaff. Yeah, so Carrie Lake, Matt Schaff. This is Diamond and or Silk. Whatever one didn't die of COVID. Looks like Stephen Miller here. So these are the greatest hits. That might be Matt Gaetz back there. All I see is forehead. So I'm... Oh, you can't see him. Hold on. Can I do... There he is. Yeah, I think that's Matt Gaetz. See the forehead back there with the hands in front of it? Give me a second. Let me set this back. Let's see who's over here. It's too blurry to really make anybody else out. But yeah, they're there. They're all at the CPACs.
At the end of the day...
That is Matt Gaetz. I just saw forehead, and I knew it was Matt Gaetz.
Hey, anyone else will be intimidated.
I did see she's wearing a green screen. I was like, I could comment. I thought I'd say something about it, Marcy, but I saw you. Like, I would mess with it right now, but I don't have anything to do with it.
Bought off, blackmailed, or ripped to shreds. I alone will never retreat, and that is why we must stand together and charge. We have to charge.
What? And I will stand alone, and we will meme charge. Will meme charge?
That is why we must stand together and charge.
Me we charge? Me we charge.
We have to charge full speed ahead.
Yeah, but that's not what it said. What did it say on the teleprompter? See if you guys can figure it out with me.
You know, I had a beautiful life before I did.
Yeah, that's what he does. So he does the verbal kitty litter, where he reads something incorrectly on the teleprompter. He lays a turd and then just covers it up with verbal kitty litter. We have to lead me. We're just gonna we charge. We're just gonna charge all the credit cards to the Trump organization so that we can win the election and save our country. You know.
Did this? I lived in luxury. I had everything.
I charged
People said
cards.
to me, "Are you sure you want to do it, sir?" I said, "Oh, this will be so amazing." What the hell did you get me into?
A couple of new followers.
I didn't know the word subpoena. I didn't know the word grand jury.
Didn't know the word subpoena. Didn't know what a grand jury was. This is a man who thought he had the experience to be president and has now admitted earlier that he didn't.
Those words, grand jury. I didn't know that.
Pretty much everyone should know what a grand jury is. Grand jury. I wonder if he thinks that's one word. What is grand jury?
They want to lynch you for doing nothing wrong. I didn't know they want to lynch you for doing a great job. I didn't know they want to put you away because your poll numbers are better than anybody they've seen in years.
And yet lost the election.
And then they go with the disinformation campaign. First of all, we're leading every Republican by massive numbers. And very importantly, perhaps more importantly, we're leading Biden by a lot. And we're leading Kamala by a lot. And every time the polls go up higher and higher, the prosecutors get crazier and crazier. We got to stop these guys. He says, we have to stop Trump now. We got to stop him now because we can't stop him at the ballot box. You know, they tried that in 2016. How did that work out? Not
well, you won in 2016. You got fewer votes, but you won because of the Electoral College. And then you lost, losing both the votes and the Electoral College in 2020.
Too good. And we actually, and I have to say this, I hope Fox doesn't turn off, but we did much better in 2020 than we did in 2020.
Okay, I'll check that out, Tracy.
2016. Much better. But we have no choice. If we don't do this, our country will be lost forever. People are tired of rhinos and globalists. They want to see America first. That's what they want. It's not too complicated. This is the final battle. They know it. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. This is it. Either.
Okay, here's the prisoners, the January 6th prisoners. Okay, so they're singing the national anthem, apparently. There's no video of it, really. But that's what's going on with that.
They will.
And the Trump recites the Pledge of Allegiance over top of it. I don't want to play it because it could be... At some point, someone will try and sell it, and then it'll give me a copyright strike on YouTube, like 3 years from now. And I'll be, why? Why is this doing this? Then I'll get a community violation and all the other stuff.
Win, or we win. And if they win...
Thank you, Tracy.
We no longer have a country, and I promise you...
No, we still have a country. Remember, they've won already.
This, if you put me back in the White House, that beautiful building, but I live in very beautiful buildings, it's not that reason.
Yeah, no one needed to know that.
Beautiful. That building wasn't the easiest building to live in with what I was put through. And, you know, I get a lot of credit. A lot of people say, how do you do it, sir? I had a man come up.
How do you live in the White House, sir?
To me the other day, one of the toughest, strongest people that you can imagine.
I imagine. He probably cried for the first time.
All know his name. Big businessman, a lot of money, a lot of success, tough as hell.
Wait, we know him, but we didn't know what grand jury was?
And he said, could I ask you a question, President? What? A friend of mine used to call me...
Can I ask you a question, President? Not sir. This could be real. But he still calls him President.
Donald, now he calls me President.
Okay, so
could I ask you a question, President?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
How do you put up with all the arrows and slings?
Do it every day. They send you subpoenas. Every day they're after you. They're looking.
And you don't even know what a subpoena is.
To take you down at levels that nobody's ever put up with before.
Oh.
7 years I've gone through this.
Yeah.
We beat them all, but it continues. And he said to me, seriously, how do you do it? I could never do it. This is one of the toughest guys.
But you've lost several lawsuits, too, so you didn't really beat them all.
As I said, maybe you could. He said, nope, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, but I do it for you, and that's what I'm doing it for. I do it for you.
So he gets out of bed in the morning for Trump. So where are you guys sleeping together is my question. Just come clean, would you? It's okay to be gay. In fact, I just went to Pride Night last night, which is weird. Hockey teams have Pride Night. I was at the Anaheim Ducks. They had Pride Night. It was great. Thank you, Anaheim Ducks, for doing that, by the way. I actually... Look! Huh? It's an Anaheim Ducks sweatshirt. I'm not a Ducks fan, by the way. So, there you go, Ducks. Thanks for Pride Night. We had a great time. There are people, though, who live their life for this moron. Sad. Admin just went away. I thought we were going to have some discussion. Oh, well. Yes, USA. Right.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. And if you put me back in the White House, their reign is over. Their reign will be over. And they know it. And America will be a free nation once again. We're not a free nation right now.
No?
We don't have free press. We don't have free anything.
We do have free press. I mean, Fox News right now is in court acknowledging in depositions that they knew that the election was not rigged and stolen, and yet repeatedly spouted that information on the air. So, yeah, we have a free press. We're watching that right now. Literally everybody in this country can broadcast on YouTube.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today, I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those...
I am your warrior. I am your justice.
...who have been wrong...
This is a man who wants to be president. I am your justice. I alone can fix it. And he's so pretty.
...wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
I am your retribution. Jesus Christ.
Not going to let this happen.
And yet it's all happening. Whatever it is, it's happening. Completely powerless right now.
Not going to let it happen.
Just said he can't end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours because he's not president.
I will totally obliterate the deep state. I will fire.
Could have done it. Had 4 years to do it. Didn't.
Thank you. I will fire the unelected bureaucrats and shadow forces who have weaponized our justice system like it has never been weaponized before. It's sick. These are sick people. And I will put
Had 4 years to do it. Didn't do it.
the people back in charge of this country again. The people will be back in charge of our country. The Biden administration is the most corrupt administration in American history.
And yet, no impeachments.
Hunter Biden is a criminal and nothing happened to him. Nothing happened. Joe Biden is a criminal and nothing ever seems to happen to him.
Okay, well, you know, if there were charges to be laid, they could have been laid while you were president.
Because, you know,
What?
say what you want, but the Democrats stick together. They don't have Mitt Romney. They don't have guys like that. They stick together. How's Mitt Romney doing? Not too good.
I mean, you want to talk to Joe Manchin about any of this? You want to talk to Kristen Sinema? I think it's Kirsten Sinema.
I could name plenty of others, too. But they do stick together, whether you like them or not, and many of us don't, but maybe someday we get together. You know, a question was asked of me
Oh, yeah.
just before COVID came in.
Yeah.
They said,
Yeah.
the country is coming together. Do you think this is real? And I said to myself, it is real. It's amazing.
What about Israel?
Was getting calls from radical left people, the nicest calls. It's amazing because we had the best employment numbers in history.
Not true.
We had the best economy in
Not true.
history. We were lapping China. China was supposed to
That's not a thing.
have taken over as the world's largest economy, and we were actually increasing at a level that nobody thought possible. We were
That's actually not true.
doing great. And then you had COVID come in, and a lot of things had to happen, and we did a great job. We never got the credit for that job, but we did a great job with COVID. And then
They did a pretty good job with Warp Speed, Operation Warp Speed, and Joe Biden gave you credit.
gave back something very strong. But we were really bringing this country together. Had COVID not come in, I think you would have had a much different, because a lot of people want to know,
No, he's right. If COVID had not come in, things would be very different.
can we all get along together? And if I didn't have that experience, I would say no, because the thought process is so different. But we were starting to really get along.
Yeah, it's so sad that George Floyd was killed by COVID, isn't it?
And then we had the disaster, as I call it, the China virus, because I want to be open, and I want to be.
By the way, YouTube censors, I'm not saying that that's sarcasm. I'm not saying that George Floyd was killed by COVID.
I want to be accurate.
As do I.
But Biden openly held back $1 billion taxpayer money.
What?
For the government of Ukraine. Remember he said, until they fired a prosecutor. When they fired that prosecutor.
It wasn't. It was a loan guarantee. It wasn't. The money was coming from the International Monetary Fund.
And this prosecutor was after Hunter and the company that was paying him a fortune of
The prosecutor wasn't investigating Burisma. That's the problem.
money. Remember Joe Biden stood up and said, and I looked at them and I said, you're not getting that $1 billion. You're not until you get rid of the. I can't believe he did that.
Yeah, that was his job. That's what the entire international community wanted him to do, because that was a corrupt prosecutor who wasn't investigating. That was the problem.
Can you imagine if I did that?
Yeah, you did that all the time.
I wouldn't be here right now, I suspect.
No, dude, you just spent time telling us how other countries were getting all this money, and you said you better do this or you're not going to get that money. How NATO, the people were not paying for NATO, and you made them pay. You brag about this. This is what presidents and vice presidents do. So why is it so surprising that that's what Joe Biden did? He was doing his job. You're not going to get American money unless you behave in the way we want you to behave. There's such a mental disconnect.
And nobody picks it up. Nobody wants to pick it up. It doesn't get any worse. Doesn't get any worse than that. Although, maybe it does. It's called the laptop from hell. That gets worse. And yet they go after me over and over again about something that's...
The crowd's starting to look bored.
It's not even a crime. They make up Russia, 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 which was a plan made up by crooked Hillary Clinton, Adam Shifty Schiff, and the Democrats, the DNC. They then made up a fake phone call. They took a phone call that was perfect, and they pretended that I said things that weren't even in there. They actually...
And he's going to say, then I released the transcripts. He released the transcripts before Adam Schiff paraphrased it, comparing him to a mob boss. The transcripts were out there. You can just go back and look on the Internet Archives or any news source, and you'll realize that one was on the 16th, one was on the 19th, or whatever the days were. But the transcripts were already out there. But Trump, to this day, keeps saying that he released the transcripts because Adam Schiff said he was a mob boss.
Actually imitated. Remember Schiff? He stood up in Congress, and
he was sitting, by the way. He didn't stand up.
Repeated the call like I was a gangster.
Right. That was after you released the transcripts. And nobody, in any of the interviews that Trump does, nobody ever challenges him on that. So if you happen to be with a news organization that might be leaning towards the right, and Trump happens to sit down with you, and he goes into this diatribe, please let him know that that's not the case. Remember when it was on HBO, when the guy from Axios, the Australian guy, I want to say Jonathan Rose, I'm terrible with names, but Jonathan, anyway, he had paperwork with him and tried to show it, hand it to Trump, and Trump would look, oh, no. Bring the facts with you. Be a good person with your job.
Over and over again, quid pro quo. Remember the term, quid pro quo? But there wasn't. I called downstairs at the White House. I said, listen, do we have that call taped? Because there's no way I said those things. And they called back.
Jonathan Swan. Thank you, Marcy. We love him.
Back and tell me, yes, sir, we do, essentially.
I know the way my brain works is I knew it was 4 letters, and I knew white. They actually did like experiments on me as a child. I see things differently, but that's how that works. So a little insight into the world of Kevin, and that's all in here all the time, people. That's what I have to suffer with.
We had transcripts of the call. Thank goodness we had transcripts. Because these guys they're sick people, and they were looking to do a number. I'll tell you how bad they are. So
okay. And again, that's just not the way reality worked at all. He released the transcripts, and then they had a hearing where Trump or Schiff paraphrased the call. It couldn't have paraphrased it if they actually had the call. I mean, it didn't have the call. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say.
And I tell this story seldom, but it's a strong story, Monica. Thank you very much for the great job you do, by the way.
Monica Crowley, maybe? I don't know.
What a
I hope it's Monica Lewinsky.
Defender she is. But they're so bad. So they come up with this Russia hoax. And they know it's a hoax. They know it's a hoax. I know it's a hoax, too.
It wasn't.
But they know it's a hoax.
No, Russia tried to interfere with the 2016 election. That's been established many times over, but okay.
And Adam Shifty Schiff comes out from a very secretive room, Intelligence Committee or whatever.
What? A very secretive room? What is he talking about?
And he meets the press right in front. The press is going crazy. They're going crazy because they'll do anything to hurt Trump. Anything. They're evil people in many cases.
He's pointing towards the cameras that are covering him at CPAC.
Some cases, they're great people.
Oh, okay. All right. So good people, bad people.
But a lot of evil people.
Yeah.
And he stands up before a microphone. Now, this is...
Before a microphone?
A man who knows it's a fake story. Russia. I had they checked 6 years of phone calls. Millions of calls were made from my office. Not one call to Russia.
Millions of calls.
Not one call. They were surprised. They weren't surprised.
No, they were dealing with Russia. He was trying to build a building, a Trump Tower in Moscow, and they had a memorandum of understanding with Russia.
Surprised. But some people were surprised.
But I wasn't calling them, I guess. It was all signed contracts.
But he stood up before the microphones and he said, Donald Trump Jr. will go to prison for what he has done with Russia. My son is going to go to prison. He said, my son's going to go to prison.
He changes the stories all the time.
For what he's done with Russia. And my son didn't have anything to do with it. And he knew it was a fake story. And when it was finally revealed, now the Times, the Washington Post, they all admit it was a fake story. We're trying to get the Pulitzer Prize taken away. They got Pulitzer Prizes. We're suing. You know what the prize says?
No, he said he was going to get the phone records from Donald Trump Jr., and they did.
For its concise and accurate reporting on the Russia event. And they have it actually totally wrong. Actually, Mark Levin should get a prize. And Greg Jarrett.
A prize?
Greg Jarrett should get a prize.
JoJo's playing tennis right now.
And even it's not his deal, Sean Hannity.
I knew he was going to come up with Hannity. I was just about to say that, but okay.
Should get a prize.
It's not his deal.
And frankly, Jesse should get a prize.
All the Fox folks he's happy with.
Yes, he should. And
a prize.
A lot of people. Yeah. And I'll tell you, you know who should get a prize? Tucker should get a prize. Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker. What about Laura Ingraham? Let's get some ladies up in here.
They're very strong.
A very strong prize.
And we have numerous writers that should get it, but the ones that got it were the New York Times, certain reporters from the New York Times, and certain reporters from the Washington Post. They got the Pulitzer Prize, and they were exactly wrong. And now they've even admitted that it was a hoax.
No, they have not.
It was a total hoax, and they got the prize. But how bad is a person that stands before a big gaggle of press, and they just can't get enough, and says that my son is going to prison for something that he knows was a hoax?
Didn't say that.
Only a really bad person would do that. But they then came in with Ukraine, the Mueller hoax. How did Mueller present himself at the hearings? It wasn't too pretty. But you know what? I'll say this. At least they came to the right conclusion. Because I was concerned they'd come to the conclusion. I think we have prosecutors now. They don't give a damn if you're guilty. They're looking at me in Atlanta on a perfect phone call. I said, even more perfect than my perfect call to Ukraine. That was a
you can't be more perfect than perfect.
Perfect call. This is even more perfect. By the way, where's Hunter? Where is Hunter? Remember? Where's Hunter? Will there ever be a time when Joe Biden says, this thing with Hunter just isn't working out well? I'm starting to get a little angry at Hunter. Or when Hunter comes to him and says, Dad, we have a problem. What? What is it, son? Another one? Oh, son, you're a disaster, son. Son, you're a disaster. Dad, we have a problem. I left my...
Yeah, no, we know the way that Biden talks to... Sorry, I should say Joe Biden talks to Hunter Biden. When Hunter's going through troubles, Biden calls him and leaves a voicemail telling him that he's there for him and that he loves his son. We know that. I'd like to hear the voicemails that he leaves Don Jr.
My laptop at the repair shop. And Joe looks at him and says, what's on it, son? What's on it? And Hunter looks back and he says, every single crime that you've ever committed, Dad.
Okay, well, there's no crimes on the laptop, so that explains that. We're good. Is this a phone call he's describing? I missed that part. Sorry, I was reading. Let's go back a little.
Dad, we have a problem. Dad, we have a problem. Will there ever be a time when Joe Biden says, this thing with Hunter just isn't working out well?
No, there won't. He will stand by his son because he's a fucking awesome father.
I'm starting to get a little angry at Hunter. Or when Hunter comes to him and says, Dad, we have a problem. What? What is it, son? Another one? Oh, son, you're a disaster, son. Son, you're a disaster. Dad, we have a problem. I left my laptop at the repair shop. And Joe looks at him and says, "What's on it, son? What's on it?" And Hunter looks back and he says, "Every single crime that you've ever committed, Dad."
Matt Gaetz stands up. Matt Gaetz, who's been railing against the DOJ for looking at prosecuting him. Matt Gaetz stands up and applauds.
And hence it's called The Laptop from Hell. And Miranda Devine did a great book on that. And she actually thanked me. She said, "I got the name from Trump. She told me, she said, "I want to thank you for the name." I said, "No charge." But she did a great job. Great book, The Laptop from Hell. If I so much as fly over a blue state, they do so many bad things. It's just crazy. The racist Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, who is presiding over one of the most dangerous and violent cities in the United States. You have to see this. The United States, where...
The United States, huh? Is that what he said? Give me a second here. Let's see if I can make this work.
Bragg, who is presiding over one of the most dangerous and violent cities in the United States. You have to see this. The United States, where killings are taking place at a number like nobody's ever seen, right in Manhattan. And he's doing nothing about it, nothing whatsoever. No cash bail for people that just kill people. Knife them in the back, hit them over the head with a baseball bat, push them into subways when the train is right there. But this racist DA is being pushed by radical left Democrats, the fake news media, and the Department of Injustice to bring charges.
They laugh at that.
Against me for now ancient no affair story of Stormy Horseface Daniels. No attraction.
No affair story is what he's calling it.
No affair. I call it no affair.
Yeah, we got that.
Where there is no crime anyway, and charges.
Horseface Stormy Daniels. She doesn't have a horse. Like Laura Ingraham has a horse. No, was it Laura Ingraham? No, it's the other one. Anyway, you know what? People can't help the way that they look, and that's fine. And I like horses. I don't like the way they smell, though, just for the record.
Have never been brought in such a case before, and this case has been looked by every prosecutor. They're all looking.
It's been looked by every prosecutor.
They looked at it for years now. She was represented by Michael Avenatti. How's he doing? He's now in jail. And the whole thing is a complete con job. And she was ordered to pay me, a federal court ordered this, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But they're still looking at it. They're still looking.
Was Stormy Daniels ordered to pay Trump hundreds of thousands of dollars? How did I miss that?
And all they do is they cause anger and problems for our country because our people aren't going to take this stuff. It never ends. In the meantime, Hunter and Joe Biden skate. You know, they skate. They go away free. What's going on with that? I mean, that laptop is a disaster. Has anyone read this thing? How can it be possible?
Yes, actually, the FBI's had it for a couple of years.
They're looking.
It had it when you were president. It was your FBI, sir, run by the people that you appointed and said had absolute credibility.
In Delaware, how's he doing? He's not the same guy that I have for the...
Oh, okay, so had to pay attorney's fees or something. Stephanie's saying Storm had to pay some money for attorney's fees or something like that. Okay, sure.
The document hoax, I have a man, he's a total animal, known to be, and he's looking. In the meantime, Biden's guy that's looking. Don't forget, I had a very strong privilege as president. I was able to do things that he wasn't able to do as vice president and wasn't able to do as a senator. The Senate, even the Senate, they can't believe it. The Senate.
He thinks that he has absolute immunity as president, which has never been his standing in any way.
Not believe it. But when you look at what happened, they're not even looking at him. They haven't even started. Congress and various...
No, there's been an independent prosecutor looking at both of them.
Radical left Democrat prosecutors, in an effort to stop me, go to the Supreme Court twice. They went twice, and the Supreme Court, in a moment of total weakness, gives them everything they want in order to try and prosecute Trump, everything. Thank you very much, Supreme Court. I appreciate it. But
I mean, the 6 conservative justices there. If you can't take a court that's 2/3 in your favor, there's something wrong, buddy.
they found nothing. They looked at 11 million pages of documents. It's a big company. It's a great company. Remember my taxes? We're after his taxes.
No. The New York prosecution found and the jury convicted unanimously on 9 counts that the Trump organization committed crimes. What do you mean they found nothing? 9 counts.
5 years I heard about my
guilty. Well, you get the point.
Taxes. They came out about 2 months ago. Everyone said, wow, it's a great company he built. That's great.
No, they didn't.
That's the end of it.
They said, wow, look at all this debt.
No, right? And you know, I had the biggest and most prestigious, one of them at least, law firms, accounting firms, doing all this stuff. I don't do it. They do it. You rely on these people. They do it. But I didn't hear one word.
No. And as a matter of fact, on several of the tax documents, it was noted, and in financial statements, etc., that these are ideas that Trump has, that we really haven't done the research on this. As if that was a way they would just escape liability. And the IRS was supposed to be auditing Trump while he was in office because that's what they do to presidents and vice presidents. For some reason, it wasn't happening.
And how stupid am I telling you this story right now? Because now we got to find something in there. He made a typographical error. There's a revolution going on within the FBI because they don't want to be doing what they're being told to do because they know right from wrong. I'm talking about the people that work in the FBI. And they like me and they like you a lot. So many of them. A recent article in the Washington Post, of all papers, stated very succinctly that many did not want to raid Mar-a-Lago. They didn't want the agents. They said, that's terrible.
Yeah, they didn't want there to be repercussions on their careers.
But they were forced to do so by their Marxist radical left leadership.
Or bosses is another way of saying that. Imagine that, someone being forced to do something by their boss that they may not have wanted to do. Oh my God, anarchy.
And it drove my popularity numbers through the roof. Who would think this? I got impeached and I went up 11 points.
Not true.
Not supposed to work that way. Mark, when Nixon got impeached, it went down, right? It was a spiral down. He couldn't stop it. I got impeached, we went up. But the FBI people, they didn't want to do this. To those in the FBI that are with us, I want to thank you very much. I really do. I want to thank you. Stay strong. Stay strong. Help is coming. Then there's the racist DA from Atlanta, whose city is among the most violent and dangerous places.
Everybody's a racist against the poor, older white male.
Per capita in the country. More murders than even Chicago, per capita. It's totally out of control, and yet
per capita, many of the cities he mentions aren't even in the top 50.
She has her kangaroo court focused on a perfect phone call that I made. Well,
per capita, the most handgun deaths, the most gun deaths in the United States, takes place in Alaska.
Jury foreman, a rather bizarre young woman, is going around doing media interviews and saying exactly what's going on in this one of many grand juries. Our opponents do anything they can to hurt me politically because they're afraid of me and they're afraid of you. That's what it is. But it's not supposed to work that way. The disinformation, people say they are great at disinformation. The one we want to run against is Trump. Do you ever hear that? Oh, we want to run against Trump. Even though I'm leading every one of these guys, and even though I won the second election, okay, I won it by a lot. You know, when they say Biden won, the smart people know that, didn't they? But right now we're way up. But they say, oh, we want to run against Trump. They always say that. They say that about everybody. When they have somebody that they don't want to run against, a governor, a senator, they say, we want to run against, because it's like demeaning. You know, in other words, like you're supposed to be a schlemiel that, I mean, I got 75.
You're supposed to be a shamil? Shemazel? Hassan Pfeffer Incorporated? We're going to do it. Give us any chance, we'll take it.
Million votes.
Give
I got
us
more votes than any
rule,
sitting
we'll
president
break
in
it.
history the second time. And we really did. We did a much better job than we
That is true. He did get more votes than any sitting president in history and lost.
did in 2016. 2020, we did better than 2016. But they say,
Nope, you lost.
we want to run against Trump. In the meantime, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to find just a single word, a sentence, anything to prosecute Trump.
Hundreds of millions of... No one is spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Because they don't want to run against me. That's what they say. We want to run against Trump. We'll do anything to run against Trump. They have the greatest line
We'll do anything to run against Trump?
to prosecute Trump because they don't want to run against me.
So they don't want to run against Trump, right?
That's what they say. We want to run against Trump. We'll do anything to run against Trump.
So they don't want to run against you, but what they say is they'll do anything to run against Trump. Okay.
They have the greatest line of bullshit of any group of people I've ever seen.
Okay. Well, we'll let the jury decide that. The jury in New York already found your Trump organization guilty of 9 different crimes.
Want to run against Trump.
So which is it? Do they want to run against you or not run? Like what? Cuckoo! Cuckoo!
But at the same time, they send people from the Justice Department to the local DA's office in Manhattan. Do you know the Justice Department sent their top people to the Manhattan DA's office to help in the prosecution of Trump? This way, we have it a little bit away from Washington. It's local. Oh, we had nothing to do. But their top guy was put in that office to help prosecute Trump. How would you like to have my life? Would anybody like my life?
God, no.
But I still like it.
Imagine having to decipher Melania on a regular basis.
But they want to try and find anything they can when they've already been exonerated. I've been exonerated
They've already been exonerated?
many times. You take a look at what this been. I mean, time after
Finish the sentence.
time. But all of this is happening for one single reason. They know that when we return to power, we will bring their lies and their corruption and their disinformation tumbling down.
And the walls come tumbling down. Come tumbling, crumbling.
Our getting back in the White House is their worst nightmare, but it is our country's only hope. It's our only hope. If we don't
what?
get back...
Uh-huh.
Now, this
We're not gonna
country
have a
can't take it. Even
Yeah.
the 2 years, and now, fortunately, it's less than that. It's hard to believe. It's less. Used to
No, I mean, time passes. That's what happens.
say 4 years. A lot of people said, well, sir,
Yeah.
the election was so bad. You'll be in 1 year. A lot of people in this room. You'll be back in 6 weeks, sir.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen. So these people were wrong, weren't they? You weren't back in 6 weeks, were you, sir?
But it's a
But what?
bad system in many ways. Very
Oh,
bad,
yeah?
very dangerous system.
Uh-huh. It's a bad system, people.
But nobody else can do it but us. In
Okay.
recent weeks, I've been laying out a bold, detailed agenda for how we're going to complete this mission
Okay.
in our next term. I do weekly statements, and people are liking
you?
them.
Oh,
Today, I
people are.
want to go through some of our big plans that I will do as the 47th President of the United States.
We're not there yet? You haven't gone through those yet? Let's see if he's still going. We are now about 43 minutes behind. And, oh Christ, he's still going. Sorry, people.
States.
Settle in, folks. You might want to get
Thank
yourself
you.
something to drink. I'm hungry.
At the top of my list,
Yeah.
we'll be stopping the slide into costly and never-ending wars. We've got to stop it. Can't keep spending hundreds of billions of dollars protecting people that don't even like us. Now, you know, in business...
What are we talking about? Which war specifically are you talking about? That Ukrainians don't like us?
If you did that, what you do is you put up the money and then you say, but listen, we own half your country in case you win. You know, you take
That's
a piece
not
of the...
That's called a war crime.
Upside, right? We get nothing. In fact, the opposite. We put up the money, and then after it's finished, assuming it's successful, let's say it's successful,
okay,
they don't want to even talk to us. Nope, you have nothing to do with us. Get out of here. You have nothing. No.
Can you give me an example of that?
In business, you put up money, seed money, call it whatever you want.
Yeah, but can you give me an example of us helping a country win a war and them not talking to us anymore?
You end up owning
I mean, the last 70 years.
The country by the time it's over. And the only reason they're doing well is we're giving them the greatest equipment that I bought, the greatest equipment ever made. And the only
He's referring to Ukraine.
reason they're doing well with NATO is I raised $440 billion from countries that weren't paying anything.
They were paying.
And the Secretary General Stoltenberg, a good man, he said it's one of the greatest jobs I've ever seen. I hope he still says that, but one of the greatest jobs. He said Obama would come and make a speech. Bush would come, make a speech, and then they'd leave.
Right, that's what everybody does. You did that too.
I came, I looked, I said, man, these people aren't paying. We're paying for the whole thing practically. Of the 28 countries at the time, only 8 were paid up. 20 weren't, including Germany. They paid.
It's not a bill.
A fraction of what they were supposed to be paying. And I said to him, either you pay or we're not going to protect you. And a man stood up, a president of a country stood up, and he said, sir, could I ask you a question? This was a round table with nobody in the room but the presidents, prime ministers, and dictators, okay? Some of them are all the same. But they stood up, and he stood up and said, sir, could I ask you a question? If we don't pay up, and if we get attacked by Russia, will you protect us, sir? I said, no, you're not paid up, right? That's right. You're delinquent, right? Yes. I will not protect you from Russia. Sir, we'll send you a check tomorrow, sir. We'll send you a check tomorrow. It will be sent.
Why would they send a check to Trump?
By overnight mail, sir. I promise you'll have it tomorrow. Now, if I said, like the stupid politicians say, absolutely will be, Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Just Article 5 is the important part.
You're supposed to.
There's no reason to make that number bigger. The article doesn't have to be a bigger. It's not the way articles work. Article 5 is anybody attacks a NATO member, they attack all NATO members, and those members come to the defense. That's the way that Article 5 works. 6, 7, 8, 9, not as familiar with those, but they sound better, bigger.
Do it. But those articles all suppose that you're supposed to be paid up. But let's say I said
they don't.
The opposite.
It's Article 6, 7, 8, 9 don't necessarily suppose that.
Yes, we will always protect you. I took a lot of heat because they said, I'm not a good member. Actually, NATO wouldn't even exist if I didn't get them to pay up. But they paid up $440.
That's complete nonsense.
$9 billion or something, and that's the money they use. They're rich as hell right now. They spent an office building that cost $3 billion.
They spent an office building, people. They spent an office building.
It's like a skyscraper in Manhattan laid on its side. It's one of the longest buildings I've ever seen. And I said, you should have, instead of spending $3 billion, you should have spent $500 million building the greatest bunker you've ever seen. Because Russia wouldn't even need an airplane attack. One tank, one shot through that beautiful glass building and it's gone. Same architect I used in Chicago, great architects, but they didn't have war in mind. But when things happened, that building would be gone in about 15 minutes. They should have spent a $500 million bunker, nice thick ceiling, 6 inches, 6 feet of concrete. And by the way, we have a great gentleman. Speaking of China, will you please stand up? Gordon, stand up, please. Gordon Chow. I'm talking a lot about China, and I'm looking over, I'm saying him, and I'm studying his face as I'm speaking, because people do like me to go off script a little bit, right? It's a little bit more risky, but it's more exciting. And I'm looking at Gordon, and I'm saying, I hope he agrees with what I'm saying, but basically I'm saying exactly what you say. They're not out for our good, are they? They're not out for our good. And nobody ever taxed them like I did, and nobody ever took any money in like I did. $440 billion. We took in so much money from China. It's so incredible. So it's an honor to have you here. Really, it is.
440 billion from China, not NATO, now China. Just coincidentally, both China and NATO gave the United States 440 billion. That's what Trump's mind is telling us.
I agree with almost everything you said. Almost everything. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Great job, both of you. I was the only president in decades that didn't have a war, but I completed wars that were already started, including defeating 100% of the ISIS caliphate. 100%.
No new wars were started under Trump, but he did have wars.
He's also the only president.
The war with ISIS is not officially a war, by the way.
Where Russia didn't take over a country during my term.
They were in the only president in what?
Where Russia did. I was also the only president where Russia didn't take over a country during my term.
The only president. Since Bush, he could say that, but Bush, it happened in the second term. They went into Georgia. Russia went into Georgia during Bush's second term. Obama, Russia went into Crimea in Obama's second term. Biden is now Trump's second term because Trump lost the election. Sorry.
Russia took over not because I got along with Vladimir Putin very well. I say, Vladimir, don't do it. You know, you and I are friends. Don't take over any countries because, you know, Moscow will be hit very hard. I told him things. He probably didn't believe it, but you know what? He believed it 10%. And President Xi believed it when I talked about Beijing. He probably said, I don't believe him, but there's a 10% chance we're not going to do anything. It's true.
He talked about Beijing. Why would he talk about Beijing?
It's true. You have no idea. These conversations, I wish they could have been recorded, actually. People would think a lot of me.
Huh.
But with Bush, they invaded Georgia, right?
Yeah, I wish they were recorded too.
With Obama, they took Crimea.
In Obama's second term, yeah.
With Biden, they're trying to take everything. And he won't even know they took it.
So Russia's trying to take everything, but we should stop paying money to stop Russia. Got it.
Good. Thank you. And with me, they took nothing. Nothing. And I didn't really even have to threaten them very much. They understood me very well. I wanted them to understand me very well. They knew that they couldn't do it. Putin knew that. President Xi knew it too. Likewise.
Okay, well, Putin's on an 8-year schedule, and you just happened to not be president during this invasion.
China now has its eyes strongly focused on Taiwan. And we could soon have a nuclear-armed Iran. That's the saddest thing of all, though, when we talk about Iran. That's the saddest thing when you see I had them in a box. I said to China, you can't buy any oil from Iran. They said, no, we have to buy. We buy millions of barrels here. And I said, you can't buy. You have to buy from somebody else. No, we'll buy. I said, good. We're not going to do any more trading with China. We're going cold turkey. We will promise you not to buy from Iran. Okay, that was the end of that. You know, that was a conversation I had. I said,
that would crash the world economy immediately if the United States stopped buying from China altogether. We could have done that. But we didn't. But if President Trump threatened that, China would just say, yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead. See what happens if you stop all trade with China, idiot.
That if you buy from Iran, any oil,
China would love that.
We're not going to do any business. Or if for some reason we do, we're going to put 100% tariff on every single thing that you sell into the United States. And they didn't buy any oil, and nobody was buying oil, and they were in a position, had the election not turned out the way it did.
China buys a lot of oil in secret.
They were in a position where they were going to give us everything. We were going to make a great deal. But now they're rich again. China is buying unlimited amounts of oil from Iran, unlimited amounts, and other places. And we've done something else that's terrible. From the time I'm a young man, I learned never allow Russia and China to get together, to wed. Never, ever allow it. And we've not only allowed it, we've made them bosom buddies. We've made them, we forced them together. And you can add another group in there, a nuclear-armed Iran. So the three of them are now together. That should have never been allowed to happen, would have never happened with me. And it was all over oil, our stupid oil policy. We're not going to do it. We have more oil in the United States than any country in the world,
Not even close. We're 11th.
including Saudi Arabia. People don't
No, that's not true at all. We're nowhere near that.
realize it. In Alaska, I approved a site. We all know what the site is. Probably the biggest in the world.
No. He's talking about Anwar, but he probably doesn't remember the name. No, the United States is 11th in oil reserves. Venezuela is number 1.
And the Democrats said, no, it's over. They turned it down. Ronald Reagan tried to do it. Every president, Republican, and some Democrats tried to do it. They couldn't get it done. I got it done. And the first day in office, the Secretary of the Interior for Biden signed off on it, where they're going to not allow it to happen. Bigger, probably, than Saudi Arabia.
That's not true. Biden released more leases for new oil drilling in his first year than Trump did in his first year, and the second year as well.
Arabia. And if we had that without even my talking to Putin.
And again, in the Permian Basin, which is Texas, New Mexico, the biggest oil basin in the United States, they're now hitting record numbers. Pretty soon, we're going to surpass the record number before COVID. So the oil companies are drilling. By the way, gas is, was $5 a gallon. Now it's, I don't know, $3.38. I don't know. I have an electric car, so I'm not sure. But I would highly recommend it, by the way.
Oil would have been at $40, $35, maybe $30 a barrel. So he wouldn't have even had the money to prosecute a war against Ukraine.
And now Oleg Deripaska, which is probably the most well-known oligarch in Russia, a longtime friend of Putin, just came out this week and said that Russia's going to run out of money next year.
He wouldn't have done it anyway, and that's not even what I'm saying from previous, but he wouldn't have had the money even if he wanted to. Ukraine would have been thriving. There would have been no dead people, and there would have
There'd be no dead people.
been no obliterated cities that can never be rebuilt. Can never rebuild those cities.
Electric cars are expensive everywhere. So are regular cars. But you can buy a used electric car, too.
Russia never would have pulled the trigger. This is the most dangerous time in the history of our country, and Joe Biden...
It's not, by the way. We've been as close as 1 minute to midnight. We're not right now. Now, the world, with Putin being in charge and pretty much a maniac, yes, the entire world is in danger right now. We've never been closer to a nuclear holocaust.
Is leading us into...
But that's just subjective.
Oblivion. He's leading us into oblivion. You know, we all smile when he falls downstairs and things. It's cute.
It doesn't fall downstairs.
When he falls off his bicycle, isn't this good? You know what amazed me?
Yeah, his foot his bike shoe got caught in the pedal. That happens to everybody.
That the reporters didn't catch him when the bike was going.
You can get cheaper cars than the Renault Zoe out there, Gallon, and see what I don't know if the British government has anything for. Anyway, if you have a car and it's still working, don't get yourself an electric car.
Going down, they're standing right next to him. They let him fall. It's amazing.
That's not what happened at all. He's probably talking about when Biden fell on the staircase going up into Air Force One. He tripped. He didn't actually fall down to his knees, as far as I remember. Like faceplant. We would have seen that. He might be talking about the when he fell off his bike. But like the Secret Service doesn't run alongside the bike while Biden's on the bike. And all those times that Trump rode his bike oh yeah. I'm
surprised. But when he makes statements that are so bad, when he gets out of Afghanistan and takes the soldiers out first. And in Afghanistan, for 18 months, I had a talk with Abdul. He was the leader of Afghanistan. I said, Abdul.
He wasn't the leader of Afghanistan. He was the leader of the Taliban.
Oh, I got a lot of criticism. Remember when I was talking to him? Everyone said, oh, he's talking to the leader of the Taliban. That's right, because our soldiers were being killed, a lot of them by snipers. And I didn't want that. I don't want to deal with the problems, and I don't want to talk to the mothers and fathers, who I would speak to a lot. I don't want to talk to them and tell them their son was shot through the head from...
Well, I would tell them, well, he knew what he was getting into.
2,000 yards.
What he did tell the wife of one of the soldiers killed in Niger, which Trump still doesn't mention. Benghazi, yes. But Niger, no, we don't talk about it.
Yards away by a sharpshooter. They have very good sharpshooters. So I spoke to this man. His name was Abdul, and I said, Abdul...
And he grunted?
Don't kill any more of our soldiers, because if you kill our soldiers, we're going to hit you harder than any country has ever been hit in the history of the world.
So you're going to nuke them, because that's what the United States did to Japan. USA,
and he called me Your Excellency. He was, I got along with him. He's still there. He's still the leader of the Taliban, but now he's got $85 billion worth of our...
Yeah, Trump had him released from prison, too.
...equipment that I bought. $85 billion. I said to General Milley, I want every piece of equipment. Sir, I think it would be cheaper to leave it behind, sir. That's when I lost faith. That, and when he didn't like me holding up a Bible in front of a church, I said, this guy's not with us. This is not a smart guy. But he didn't like it. I said, I want every single, because I was getting out of, but I would have kept Bagram, because Bagram's 1 hour away from where China.
So he would have pulled completely out of Afghanistan, but he would have kept Bagram.
Forget about...
So we wouldn't have been out.
Afghanistan, where China makes its nuclear weapons. 1 hour away. The biggest, most powerful runways in the world. We built it many years ago for tens of billions.
No, there's no such thing as a powerful runway.
Of dollars. And we gave it away one night. We just left the lights on. We did leave the dogs behind. Everyone says, oh, did they take the dogs? Because they're dog lovers, right?
No. Right, but that's a different story. And no, we didn't leave the lights on. We shut down Bagram Air Force Base. The Afghanistan Army, actually, we kind of screwed them because they thought they were going to get the air base, etc. But no, we left them nothing.
No, we left the dogs.
We disabled the vehicles, and we shut down the power to Bagram.
Behind. And the Taliban doesn't like dogs, by the way, not at all. But we left in disgrace. It was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, in my opinion. And it probably is what caused Putin to say, wow, Trump is gone. This is a great time to take over Ukraine, right? It's probably a reason that happened. But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can...
So he said Trump is gone. It's a good time to take over Ukraine, except that it was Afghanistan, not that Trump was... Okay.
Make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily.
Except that World War III isn't happening.
And you're going to have World War III, by the way. You're going to have World War III. If something doesn't happen fast, you're going to have World War III.
If something doesn't happen fast. Well, I mean, with the accuracy of that statement, I mean, there's no way.
And by the way, just to conclude that little story, when Abdul heard me say that, he said, Your Excellency...
He's going to threaten his house. He's going to show him a picture of his house.
Excellency, thank you so much for telling me that. He said, but why? I thought it was a very interesting play on words. I've never heard it. I use it now sometimes myself. I liked it. He said, but why, Mr. President? Do you send me pictures of my home? Said that.
What is the play on words that you use now?
I said, you'll have to ask your wives that question. And we didn't have, Mark will tell you this, we didn't have one soldier killed. In 18 months, not one soldier was killed.
No, there were soldiers killed. There were no soldiers killed in combat.
Not one soldier, right? In fact, it was so good that the media didn't mind that I called. I took a lot of heat, tremendous heat. Why do you call him? I said, well, you know, they asked Jesse James, the great bank robber from many years ago, why is it that you rob?
The great bank robber. The late, great Jesse James. We love Jesse James. All the raping and the plundering and the pillaging, don't we?
Banks. Why do you always go after banks? And he looked at him, he says, because that's where the money is. Well, I spoke to Abdul because that's where the problem was. But we won 18 months until that horrible day when we lost 13 soldiers.
The great Jesse James killed so many people. He really did. We love it when people kill people.
And you know, the thing that nobody ever talks about, we lost 13, we lost $85 billion worth of the greatest military equipment in the world. Goggles, night goggles that are...
Goggles!
So good, so sophisticated, better than anything we have. Brand new, never even taken out of the box.
Uh-huh.
And you know, the Afghans, and they're actually very good. The Taliban are good fighters. Afghan, because it's really very much the same thing.
Because they wear Afghans?
Frankly, they didn't...
Wait, we left Afghans?
Fight good for us, but they fought good for themselves, and they took a lot of money from us. I asked General Mattis, I said, you know, we got to get out of there. They've been there for 20 years. We got to get out of there. Sir!
You said you asked. What's the question?
They're fighting for their country, sir. I said, that's right. I guess they are. Then about 2 days later, I was thinking about it. I said, I don't know why. Because, you know, we had more blue on green, green on blue, where they get their gun and then they'd shoot our master sergeants and our sergeants that are training them. I said, why are they fighting for us if we've never had this problem to the extent that we had it? But he said that. He said, they're fighting. And I said...
So because of the green on blue crime?
Are we paying them a lot of money to fight? And I had it checked. Yeah, we were paying billions and billions and billions of dollars to these Afghan soldiers. Tens of billions of dollars. I said, they're not fighting, General. I called them back in. They're not fighting because they love us or they love their country. They're fighting because they're the highest paid soldiers in the world. We're basically bribing them to fight. And they didn't fight, but the Taliban did fight. Same people, but the Taliban did fight. But they didn't kill anybody for 18 months. I'm very proud. In fact, Biden got up and he actually said that. They didn't kill anybody. I will say that. They didn't kill anybody for 18 months. And you know what happened? His people start screaming, don't say that! Because that's a good thing for us. But then when we left, we lost soldiers, 13 killed.
Right.
But what they don't talk about, they talk about the
is that you released the people that killed the soldiers from prison?
They talk about the fact that there are still to this day a lot of Americans in there that we've lost contact with. It's a rough place. But they don't talk about the fact that many of these soldiers were absolutely destroyed. Destroyed. They lost their arms. They lost their legs.
Right.
They had their face blown off. And they were absolutely destroyed. And
absolutely destroyed.
They don't talk about that.
Okay.
They don't talk about it. And it's very sad because these people, many of them, we lost 13, they died. But nobody ever talks about the gravity of the injuries to these soldiers. And
yeah, but you talk about it all the time. So it's not nobody. I mean, if you're nobody, it's a kind of...
It's a very sad thing. I got it down to 2,500 people. I was the one that got it down, but we were going to get out with dignity, with strength. We were going to be respected and admired.
Yeah, we're going to surrender with dignity.
And I could just see Abdul. They took out the soldiers first. You don't take the soldiers first. You take the
They didn't.
Soldiers out last.
No, if the soldiers were taken out first, they wouldn't have been there to get killed by the people that you released from prison that became ISIS-K, or what you call ISIS-X, or I don't even remember anymore.
You get the Americans out first,
Yeah.
because they feared our soldiers.
Right, which we tried to do, because the State Department issued 19 warnings to Americans, get out now.
Feared our soldiers. They feared the F-16s, and now they own them. Think of it. You get the soldiers, and they go out last. You take our American citizens out. You then take our equipment out. And Millie said to me, "Sir, it's cheaper to leave the equipment than it is to take it out." I said, "Let me ask you, General, so we have a plane that costs $100 million brand new. You want to leave?" "Yes, sir, it's cheaper, sir."
Now, suddenly Millie talks like this, sir. Sir, he's a little bit slurry, sir. Sure, Millie does not do that.
I thought he was, another April Fool's deal, right?
This is like a story of reflection here today. He takes a pause, then he comes up with a different accent for Millie, and thinks to himself, slows it down. He's very low energy today.
I said, "No, General, you fill it up with a tank of jet fuel, you fly it back home, or at a minimum, you fly it into Pakistan or some semi-friendly country, and you take it from there, right?" "No, sir." I actually told them I want the tents. The tents have big canvas, incredible tents with I want every piece of steel. I want every screw. I want every nut. I want every bolt. I want every tractor. I want every Jeep. You know what they did? They left 700,000 rifles and guns. 700,000. They left 70,000 vehicles, 70,000, many of them brand new, many of them armor-plated, where they have 6 inches of steel in the bottom. Cost you millions of dollars to build. And they left that all behind. There's not a car company, used car lot, new car lot, anywhere in the world that would have 70,000 vehicles.
There are many, many car companies that have 70,000 vehicles.
I said to a friend of mine who's one of the Arrigo in Florida, great guy. I said, "How many cars?" I think he's like the biggest in Florida. They did very well, thank you. But the biggest, I said, "How many cars would you have?" "I don't know, a couple of hundred extra, a couple of hundred." And he's like, "A big one, real big one, runs a great operation." 70,000 vehicles. So now I read the other day that the Taliban...
So he's surprised that the U.S. Army, that's an occupying force for 20 years in a country, has more vehicles than a used car lot. That's what we're on about right now.
That Afghanistan is the second largest seller of arms anywhere in the world, because they're selling everything that we gave them. And by the way, as I'm speaking, do I see cash? Is that cash? Oh, my eyes are better than I thought. Is that cash?
What?
Ooh. And is that Rick Grinnell? Huh? Wow.
Wow.
I better check with...
Rick Grinnell's at CPAC. The conservative is at CPAC. Who would have thunk it?
Gordon, I better check this audience a little more closely. I'm going to miss a lot of people in here. Great. 2 real patriots. They really are 2 great people. Thank you very much. But they're the same.
Yeah, but Trump had the opportunity to pull all of the equipment out of Afghanistan. He was in office for 4 years. He did not. In fact, he campaigned on withdrawing from Afghanistan. And instead, he surged troops into Afghanistan based on a gut feeling. So Trump could have done all the things that he's criticizing Biden for not doing.
Second largest to us. They're the second largest arms dealer in the world. They're selling off all the beautiful brand new equipment we gave them. The Apache helicopter, which is the best in the world, they gave 1 to Russia, They gave 1 to China, and they're very good. They take it apart and they reduplicate it. They take it apart.
They take it apart and they reduplicate it. They don't just duplicate it. They build it again, and then they do it again.
Duplicate it because they've never been able to build one like we have. Now they're able to do it because they're very smart, actually. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war
we're back on script now.
Between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly.
Before he even arrives on office.
Quickly. I will get the problem solved, and I will get it solved in rapid order, and it will take me no longer than one day. I know exactly what to say to each of them. I got along very well with them. I got along very well with Putin, even though I'm the one that ended his pipeline. Remember, they said, Trump is giving a lot to Russia. Really? Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate like hell to see you as my enemy. Because I ended the pipeline, right? Do you remember? Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of it, Rick.
It hadn't started.
Right? Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I
Well, there was Nord Stream 1, and a lot of people had heard of Nord Stream 2.
came along. I started talking about Nord Stream 2. I had to go call it the pipeline because nobody knew what I was talking about. But I ended it. It was dead. I told every company that had sucked into it that you're not doing business with the United States of America if you go forward and allow this to be built. It was done. On day one, Biden came in, and this is the biggest economic development project. This is the most important project that Russia has. On day one, this is the biggest money they could ever make. There's nothing they could ever do to compete with this. This is the biggest pipeline in the world. Going to supply Europe, Germany in particular. On day one, Biden came in. And what did he do? He approved the Nord Stream pipeline. And then they'd say,
He didn't.
Trump was soft on Russia. I was the one that gave 1,000 javelins. That's the anti-tank busters. And they are vicious. Because I looked at those tanks, and they got hit one shot, and that was the end of that. You wouldn't want to be in those tanks.
Okay.
But I was the one that supplied the javelins.
Then, under threat of not doing that, unless they did us a favor, though.
They supplied the bed sheets. Do you remember? They supplied the bed sheets.
And defensive weapons, and night goggles, and jeeps. Yeah.
And maybe even some pillows from Mike, who's sitting right over here.
By the way, when those javelins were supplied, they were told they could not use them, except in an invasion. And remember, he thought he was going to be president for another 4 or 6 years, that the invasion wasn't going to happen.
Did you send some pillows over there? Maybe. But they supplied the bed sheets, they called it. We supplied the sheets. They didn't want to get involved. I gave the javelins. And then they say Trump was weak on Russia. Disinformation. Again, it's disinformation, right? That's all they're good at. Cheating on elections and disinformation. Instead of spending
The election was not cheated or stolen.
hundreds of billions of dollars to defend the borders of distant foreign countries, under my leadership, we will defend our...
Okay, right. You just bragged about sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. Remember those Javelin missiles? They're not free. You're literally just bragging about them 30 seconds ago, and now you're criticizing the Biden administration for sending... My God. How does anybody with a brain still support the Republican Party?
Our borders first. Three years ago, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
We didn't.
And I will quickly do that again.
Can't.
As you know, I built hundreds of miles of wall and completed that task as promised.
Yeah, he now claims that he finished the wall.
And then I began to add even more in areas that seemed to be allowing a lot of people to come in. So we're going
Right, so the wall wasn't finished.
to do another 200 miles of wall.
Uh-huh.
And it could have been done and completed in 3 weeks, but the Biden administration said they weren't going to do it. And in
Right.
fact, the wall was sitting there waiting to be installed, the easiest part. And Biden, they took it away so that Texas and Arizona couldn't use it.
Okay, previously he said that they left it there to rust. But okay, now apparently they went and picked the wall up and took it somewhere.
Texas and Arizona said, could we use that wall? We'll finish it right up. And they said no. And they actually took it away and they
No, they said go ahead and build whatever wall you want.
hid it. They put it in
They hid it.
a hiding area, which of course was revealed pretty quickly. All you have to do is send a
Was it?
couple of helicopters up. But they wouldn't let them use it. Under my leadership,
What story is this?
we will seal it up and expand that wall till we have total control. But we did a great job in the wall, remember, with Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. Yeah, we'll give it to you next year. I said, nope, give it to me this year. Well, sir, if you approve this budget, we'll give it to you next year. I said, all right, that's okay. So I waited, then they didn't give it, you know? Right. And yet Mitch McConnell approves $5.5 trillion for Green New Deal garbage. It's a disgrace.
No, he voted for the infrastructure bill.
But I took it from the military because
it wasn't 5.5, et cetera. Anyway.
Considered it an invasion, so...
Yeah, he took the money from the military. The money that he brags about giving to the military, he actually took it to build the wall. The money that was supposed to go to military families, to build schools on bases, to build housing, etc. He took that money. The money that was supposed to fix toilets for the military, he took it. And he admits it.
Oh, Marjorie, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take it right out of the military because they're invading our country. And I got it built, and we did a great job. We did it quickly.
Yeah, took it right out of the military.
And we used the Army Corps of Engineers. They were fantastic. Before Biden came into office, we had illegal immigration at a record low. Refugees were at the lowest level in history. Human trafficking.
They weren't.
Women and children was at the lowest in 30 years. And drug dealers were finding the U.S. border a very inhospitable place to be.
Right, but deaths were going up from drug, and then COVID hit, and the deaths from drugs went down, and then they spiked right back up again.
It's very inhospitable. In my last year, less drugs came through the southern border than had been seen in many, many decades.
Right, because drugs come across the southern border predominantly 90+% at the border crossings, and the border crossings were way down because COVID. The world shut down, remember?
We weren't playing games. Now we have complete chaos. Fentanyl is pouring in. Families are being wiped out, destroyed. And there's death everywhere, all caused by incompetence.
But it happened during your administration too, sir.
Millions of illegal aliens are stampeding across our border. Interior enforcement has been shut down.
Like on horses? Yay-haw!
Down. Everyone is overstaying their visas. Nobody even thinks about reporting it anymore. My wonderful...
No, people do get reported, and about half of people in this country illegally have overstayed their visa. That was the case during Trump as well.
Full travel ban is gone. I had a travel ban. It was so wonderful. Refugee numbers are through the roof. And
right. Well, I mean, they're not. But yes, refugees are a good thing. That's the United States taking the poor, the hungry, the tired, etc., your huddled masses, etc. That's what we do.
Spies and terrorists are infiltrating our country totally unchecked like never before. When I'm back in the White House, the very first reconciliation bill I will sign will be for a massive increase in Border Patrol and a colossal increase in the number of ICE deportation officers.
Right, and that's been happening as well. Reconciliation bill is the budget bill, so I'm not sure why, and you don't have to get the 60%, so I'm not sure why he's got that in his head, but apparently he would, okay, I mean, yeah, that's technically what you could do. And there's billions of dollars increased for the border as well in Biden's reconciliation bills.
And I want to thank the Border Patrol. These are incredible people. And I want to thank ICE, and in particular, I want to thank Brandon Judd, Border Patrol, and Tom Homan, Central Casting. He's Central Casting. Under my leadership, we will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the law.
You can't use state and local resources.
Largest domestic deportation operation in American history.
You can cooperate with them.
Other countries are emptying out their prisons, insane asylums,
I know, they're sending the
and
rapists.
mental institutions,
Yeah.
and sending all of their problems right into their dumping ground, the USA. Think of it. They're emptying out their prisons, and you've heard me say that, but they're also emptying out their mental institutions. And to use a strong couple of words, insane asylum. Insane asylum, that's where...
Which one
anybody
of those words
see
is strong?
Silence of the Lamb? That's where they come from. Insane asylum.
You ever see Silence of the Lamb? How that one lamb was kept quiet by Clarice? How she gagged that lamb? And And the lamb's name was Hannibal Lecter. Lambable Hector. You can't even get the name of a Roo. A Roo. You can't even get the name of a Roovie.
It's a stronger word than a mental institution. And they're putting them into our country. Thank you very much. I will ask that a Silence of the Lamb, that's where they come from. Insane asylum, that's where... Anybody see Silence of the Lamb? That's where they come from. Insane asylum, that's where... Anybody see Silence of the Lamb? That's where they come from. Insane asylum. That's a stronger word than a mental institution. And they're putting them into our country. Thank you very much. I will ask every state and federal agency to identify every known or suspected gang member in America, and every one of them that is here illegally, and the towns know who they are. The towns and cities or the police. We love our police. The police know who they are.
The police do know who they are. That is correct. Good job. Trump is, and he's putting this out there. A lot of people are afraid to say this. The police know who the police are.
And we will pick them up, and we will throw them out of our country, and there will be no questions asked.
Could have done that. My question is, why didn't you do that when you were in charge? Why not?
We had a problem when I first assumed office in 26 years, a big problem.
We're talking about MS-13 now? We're going to do the MS-13 stabby.
Have these people, we'd round them up, MS-13 gangs, the worst people. These are absolute brutal killers. They used to knife 16-year-old girls because it was more painful. It would take longer to kill her. These are real animals. And Nancy Pelosi says, how dare you call them animals? These are human beings. I said, no, they're not. But these are real animals.
Well, human beings are animals.
We couldn't get them back into their countries because the country was like, especially three. You take a look at Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras in particular, and Mexico to an extent.
That's four.
Couldn't get them back in because they didn't want them. They sent them out in the first place. You know, they forced them into our country, just so you know. These are
the gang actually, MS-13 started in Los Angeles. That's United States, or the United Slates? What does he call it? United Straits. That's right.
Very smart people that run these places. They're very streetwise.
Correct, Marcy.
So I said, what's the problem? Sir, we have thousands of people, but they won't allow us to land the planes. They won't allow the buses to cross the border. They won't allow them back in their country. I said, how much money do we pay to these various countries? Sir, we pay $750 million a year.
Goes up every time.
I say, all right, inform the country that we're no longer paying any money.
Yeah.
And if they ask why, you can tell them that.
Okay.
But
you said you called the presidents and told them that. That's what you've said previously, but now it's some other guy who's just calling the countries?
Yes, sir, we'll do that.
Okay.
So the following morning, almost simultaneously, early, about 8 o'clock, I got calls from all three at one time. In fact, I had to tell two of them, I'll call you back.
Okay, that's new, I think. I honestly have been missing a bunch of Trump nonsense lately, but I think this is a new part of the story, that they all called at the same time for some reason.
They all came in right
at 8 o'clock, specifically.
On time, Matt. Right on time, like you call on time. And what happens is they came in and they called. They said, sir, there must be a misunderstanding. We would love to have MS-13 back in our country. And we started dropping them off by the tens of thousands, and I still hadn't paid them back their money. I kept it. Figured, let's hold it as long as possible because they've been ripping us off long enough. To stop the flow of deadly drugs, it will be my policy.
I can't do that, by the way, once Congress allocates money to a specific need. That's, for example, why it was illegal for him to stop the Javelin missiles, to hold those up. Congress makes that law, and the missiles are then allocated. Anyway.
To take down the cartels, just as I took down the ISIS caliphate that everybody said was impossible to do.
Right. And you had 4 years to take down the cartels. Didn't do it. Remember how I alone can fix it? Remember that this American carnage stops right here and it stops right now? Remember that? And then you had 4 years to do it?
A lot of parents in this audience that lost a child, that lost a loved one to fentanyl and all of the drugs that are pouring in, so many different kinds. Fentanyl is a big problem. In fact, with the ISIS caliphate, a certain general said, It could only be done in 3 years, and probably it can't be done at all, sir. And I did it in 3 weeks.
But you're not going to name that general for some reason.
I went over to Iraq, met a great general. Sir, I can do it in 3 weeks. You've heard that story.
Yeah.
I can do it in 3 weeks, sir.
Uh-huh.
How
Raising
you going to
Cain?
do that? They explained it. I did it in 3 weeks. I was told it couldn't be done at all, but it would take at least 3 years. Did it in 3 weeks. Knocked out 100% of the ISIS caliber.
Yeah.
We have a great military. The reason I say that, we have a great military. And I will direct...
Which I took money from to build a wall that doesn't work.
The Department of Justice to go after Marxist prosecutors' offices to make them pay for their illegal race-based enforcement of the law. By the way, we have one of those great generals with us, General Kellogg. Where's General Kellogg? Is he around here someplace? Where is General Kellogg? He's the greatest. He's here. Thank you, General. Thank you. Thank you, General. And in cities where there's been a complete breakdown of public safety, I will send in federal assets, including the National Guard, until law and order is restored. You know, we're not supposed to do that. And one thing I think about a lot is when we had some difficulty in certain cities like Minneapolis, and if you take a look at Portland, how's Portland doing? They don't even have storefronts anymore. Everything's too...
Portland's fantastic. What the hell is he talking about? How's Portland doing?
2x4s because they get burned down.
Portland doesn't even have storefronts anymore. That's nonsense. Portland has storefronts.
Every week. They don't put new storefronts up. It's chaos. But when we...
It's not.
We had in Seattle, remember they took over a large portion. I was ready to say...
They took up 3 blocks in a soccer pitch.
In the National Guard, they heard that. More than the National Guard. I was ready to go to town. And they heard that.
What? Put the military into Seattle? Is that what you were going to do? I want to hear what this more is.
And you know what they did? They said, we're going to break it up now. They left.
Okay.
But we saved Minneapolis. The thing is, we're not supposed to do that because it's up to the governor, the Democrat governor. They never want any help. They don't mind. It's almost like they don't mind to have their cities and states destroyed.
Well, no, they're in charge of the National Guard. That's the way it works. The governors are. But, okay.
Something wrong with these people. All of us have seen too many videos of 13-year-old carjackers and 14-year-old hoodlums viciously beating their victims. I saw it just yesterday, a horrible situation. They kill people without retribution because they may be days short of the age required to put them away, put them in jail, and throw away the keys for a long time. My administration will crack down on these out-of-control monsters, young though they may be, and impose tough consequences on
young though they may be
juvenile criminals. You know, criminals use young people. They actually hire young people, pay them.
Again, had 4 years to do this. Didn't do it.
Some money, not a lot, because if they get caught, nothing's going to happen to them. That will end. I will end the scourge of homelessness taking over our cities and suburbs. I just drove through Washington, D.C., coming here for the first time in quite a while, and the roads and highways were littered with trash like I've never seen before. It looked like somebody just took their garbage and just threw it all over the highways, the Beltway. It's so disgraceful, so disgusting. I always made it a point as president when I saw the highways were dirty or that the homeless encampments were starting to form.
Yep.
To take care of the problem immediately. I used to have...
How? When were you out there with one of those little litter spikes cleaning anything up? Homelessness was rampant in Washington, D.C., where you lived while you were president.
People out here all the time sweeping highways, cleaning highways, hosing them down. It bothered me.
Hosing down the highways.
So much. I'm in the beast. I'm being driven back to the White House from some site. And I see this filthy, dirty highway with paper that hasn't been, you could see it's been laying there for months.
Okay.
And I'd have them cleaned up. I wouldn't even call the mayor because it was never going to get done with the mayor. Frankly, the federal government.
So the federal government should be in charge of cleaning up litter.
It should take over control and management of Washington.
So the party of small government wants the federal government to clean up highway litter. You heard it here first, people.
DC.
Wow. Wow.
Good project, because it's horrible. And I think of it differently. Foreign leaders come in to see us. We want them to do what we want them to do.
Right.
And they drive through these terrible, disgusting streets where their streets are much better maintained, much nicer.
Okay, apart from Singapore, what country are you talking about?
And they see camps and homeless all over our beautiful, once beautiful parks, all over. Hundreds and hundreds of tents. I used to have them taken down immediately. I'd see one or two or three. I said, do it fast.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Who are you telling this to?
Then I'd check.
What, you send in the military?
And it was done. They'd never have time to do. Once they have 500, 600, 700 of these things up, it's a much more difficult thing. But you can do that too. Under our leadership, we will take the homeless,
So he's okay, wow. What are you going to do with the homeless? This is a new level of insanity.
Addicted and severely deranged, get them off our streets and create 10 cities where we will get them the help they so desperately need.
Okay, so he's going to take down the 10 cities and build 10 cities. Just federal 10 cities. You know what? I'm all for it. If the federal government, which by far has the resources needed to tackle this problem, wants to take over the homeless problem, fantastic. Let's do it. Absolutely. Again, you had 4 years to do this. Hasn't happened.
On day
right now, the applause is only a smattering at this point because people are like, look at these people. Look at them. They're like, why are we helping the homeless? What? And this one's clapping. This one's waving an American flag. This guy's like, oh my God. Oh, you can't see him. Hold on. See if I can bring him into view here. This one guy's either yawning or just being like, what the hell is he talking about? This guy right here. Oh my God, what is happening? We're going to put the federal government in charge of the homeless?
One, I will revoke Joe Biden's crazy executive order installing Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion czars in every federal agency. And I will immediately terminate all staffers hired to implement this horrible agenda.
He can do that if he wants to. Oh, but he's got to win the election first. That's kind of the.
I will urge Congress to create a restitution fund for Americans who have been unjustly discriminated against.
So he's going to do the repayments to the slaves? Is that because that's what that's saying? But okay, but no restitutions.
By these Biden policies, they're so unfair, they're so un-American, they're so un-American. And we will ban all.
So you're going to give remunerations to people who've been wronged by the government. Got it.
Racial discrimination by the government.
Yeah. Wow.
I will fight for parents' rights. Can you believe that here we are, and I'm saying I'm going to fight for parents' rights?
Okay.
Who would think that you have to ever say parents' rights? Don't you think parents have pretty good rights, right? Who would think that you have to actually say it? But you do, because they took the rights away.
What?
Including universal school choice and the direct election of school principals.
Right. You were campaigning on universal school choice in 2016. You didn't do it.
By the parents. We want the school principal to be appointed and elected by parents.
Right. Again, small government, but we want the school principal elected.
And you'll get some good principals then. Who loves...
That's what it is. You're going to have to... Like, your principal doesn't have enough to deal with. Too many kids, no budget, but they're going to have to run for office.
The children more than the parents.
All the schools. All 100,000 schools. You're going to have 100,000 principals run for office.
If any principal is not getting the job done, the parent...
But smaller government. Again, smaller government. That's the thing. We want to get the government out of our lives, but we want to elect school principals.
Parents should be able to fire that principal immediately and select someone new. Continuing the work of our 1776 Commission, we will teach our values and promote our history and our traditions to our children. We will, in other words, be proud of our country again.
Wow, that time when he said, in other words, he actually used other words. Usually he uses exactly the same words over again. So I'm proud of you, buddy. Kevin Powd. We've been broadcasting for so long now, it's 2.5 hours, that my ears are hurting. That's why I'm trying to keep adjusting my headphones. I need different headphones to handle this nonsense. There are no qualifications for being a school principal unless specific districts have that. But no, you don't have to be a teacher first to be a principal. I'm sure some principals have to be teachers first. I'm sure that's the rule in sub-school districts. But the school districts get to set that on a local level. It's not mandated by the federal government.
I will revoke every Biden policy promoting the chemical castration and sexual mutilation of our youth.
Sexual mutilation?
And ask Congress...
Mutilization. I got to get that one. Hold on, folks.
I will revoke every Biden policy promoting the chemical castration and sexual mutilation of our youth, and ask Congress to send me a bill prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. That should be easy. And we will keep men out of women's sports. Right?
He's coming to a close now.
How ridiculous.
Yeah.
That will take...
No, he's not. Still got 18 minutes left.
...place on day one.
Yeah.
I will destroy the illegal censorship regime and bring back free speech in America, because we do not have free speech.
We do, and by destroying the censorship regime, like, first off, it's not a thing, and secondly, if you tell them they can't do something about speech, that's a disruption of free speech.
And I will stop Joe Biden's demolition of our economy with his crushing inflation and mass
crushing inflation.
Layoffs. We will take care of...
No, there's more jobs all the time. 500,000 jobs in January.
Inflation very, very quickly. 4.9 million people have dropped out of the labor force since I was president. As the Trump administration...
Well, yeah, people retire. The baby boomers are turning older. That's what's happening. 23 million dropped out instantly when you were president.
Great Larry Kudlow. Does everybody know Larry?
Yes.
As Larry Kudlow said, Biden is setting a record on economic regulations that are absolutely killing American companies. His spending and his borrowing are at record levels. It's causing historic inflation, sir, which is only going to get worse and worse. He just called me before I said, I don't want to say this, Larry. It's only going to get worse and worse. It's driving up interest rates, and new cars and homes are going to be impossible to buy.
Just got a new car.
Amidst this economic disaster, Biden talked...
Now, by the way, I got to thank Joe Biden, and I got to thank whoever's in charge of California. I don't think it's Newsom, it's a regulation. And the good people... anyway, I've got some tremendous government benefits. Almost too many, quite frankly. The government is incentivizing people to get electric vehicles. And I look into that. If you're thinking of getting an electric vehicle and you live in the United States, feel free to contact me and I'll help you with whatever resources I can send your direction. But especially with used electric cars, plug-in hybrids, etc. Anyway, that's a completely different topic. I'm getting myself a new car.
Talks about saving you a few dollars on some junk fees. Don't mean anything. By defeating Joe Biden, I will save your economy, I will save your retirement accounts, and I will save your jobs. We had the greatest job history of any president ever.
That's complete nonsense. He's the only president since we started keeping records to leave office with fewer jobs. The only one! The only one! And he's got the best job record. It's complete nonsense.
I will create a true national trade policy like the kind that made America the world's economic powerhouse.
Again, had 4 years to do it.
What we were doing prior to the dust coming in from China was
the dust.
Nobody's ever seen that. There's never been anything like it.
Dust.
That period of 2.5 years there's never been anything like it.
Does he think like the Avengers Endgame happened during his regime?
And I'll tell foreign nations where we spend billions of dollars on military protection that if American products do not receive preferential treatment in their markets, our military is packed up and leaving.
That's actually something that's been suggested long before Trump.
Which some countries I did that with, and
oh, okay, now he's going to take credit for that.
Usually it took a phone call and everything was just fine.
Okay.
Because economic security is
I have no data on that.
National security. I will revoke China's most favored nation's trade status immediately on day one.
I'm not aware, I'm not sure what reality he's living in with that, but it's possible one American organization has a most favored trading status with China. I don't know.
And I will implement a 4-year plan to phase out all Chinese imports of essential goods and gain total independence from China. We have to do it.
That would crash the economy.
We have to do it. I will hold China financially accountable for unleashing the China virus upon the world. And I will again withdraw from the WHO, which stands for We Hide Outbreaks. We hide outbreaks. The United States was paying. I think this is important because, again, it's so much common sense involved. The United States was paying the World Health Organization $450 million a year. Now, in terms of money and the kind of trillions and trillions we're talking about, it's not that much, but it's still $450 million a year. And I took them out. That's what it was. The price was $450, and that's for 350 million people. China was paying $39 million a year for 1.4 billion people. Doesn't sound too right. And they had total control, by the way. We had no control. They literally own it. When I withdrew from the WHO, they offered me to stay in. Please don't leave. Please, please, please. For what China pays. They said, we'll bring it down to 39.
Yeah, okay. As I thought, most favored nation status has not been a thing since 1998. And now we call them permanent normal trade relations. So NTRs. There's no more most favored nation state. Anyway, but that's what he's talking about. And it's all the countries are most favored nations. What we're saying with that is not that China is the most favored nation. It's that everybody gets to be a part of that game. The Soviet Republic, all the former Soviet republics are all now NTRs. Anyway, but for some reason he thinks that China has this most favored nation over everybody else. And it's not true.
9 million. I was actually close to doing this deal, if you want to know the truth, but I would have had it. You would have been angry at me. I said, I don't want to have CPAC angry at me.
And so that's why you
But I might have gone back in. But I could have done it for 39.
But I might have done it anyway.
Could have probably done it for less than that.
Okay.
But now Biden has gone back for the full price of $450 million. Now, all he has to do is read the newspapers. They were begging me to come back in for $39 million. So why would you pay $450 million? Do you understand that, Gordon? You understand that? How crazy. So China's in for 39. They're saying, you're right, it's unfair. It's unfair. We will do it for 39. We will take you back. The head man, you know who that is? We will take you back.
He doesn't.
Then I started to say, actually, it should be much less. It should be like 5 or 6 million, right? But I didn't want to go there. We will take you back for 39
So he didn't say it.
million. You're right, President. I said, well, we'll think about it. We'll see what happens, but the offer will remain open, right? Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. They went back in for the original amount. It's so sad. And we have no control, by the way. China controls WHO. So that's what it does.
The World Health Organization, that's not true at all.
WHO is totally controlled by China.
Not true.
We could have saved $400 million a year. It's a lot.
It's not $400 million. I think it's 150 or something. But anyway.
Of money. And now they're asking for even more
All the numbers are 440 million, this speech.
dictatorial power and more and more and more of our money, but they're getting nothing more from China. When we're dealing with the Biden administration, it seems that every single day is April Fool's Day. Every day.
Okay.
They want an open border
They don't.
so that anybody can come in,
Nope.
and everybody else wants it to be closed. It's April Fool's. We want an open border. That's April.
Oh, he did this once before. Remember? I mean, I remember. He had like an April Fool's speech before. Now he's really late in the game. We got, let's see, like maybe 13 minutes left of his speech. But he started the April Fool's early one speech and was how everything Biden was doing was April Fool's. It obviously didn't catch on, but he's maybe giving it another shot here.
April Fools. We want voter ID. They don't want voter ID. Who wouldn't want voter ID? 88% of the Democrats, except for the leadership, because they can't cheat with voter ID. But 88% of the Democrats want voter ID.
Right, but what the Democrats want is that if you don't have your ID or your ID's expired or whatever, you're able to fill out an affidavit saying, yes, I'm this person, here's my vote, and do a provisional ballot. That's fine. That's what the Democrats want. And many Republican states already have that.
But they don't want voter ID. It's
not true.
April Fool's Day.
That's
They want to take the soldiers.
Again, I don't know that he knows what April Fool's is. I think we went through this last time. An April Fool is not an April Fool. April Fool is when you fooled somebody. You're the fool, sir. You have been fooled. But the Democrats, if you're saying, oh, are you trying to fool us? Again, he doesn't get what April Fool's Day is.
Soldiers out of Afghanistan before we take our people and equipment out. But we want the soldiers to come out last. So then they...
Right, the soldiers did come out last.
Blow it into a catastrophe, the most embarrassing event in the history of our country.
No. I mean, it was a catastrophe. Yeah, I'll go with that. You're pulling out after a 20-year war. You could have done that, sir.
April Fool's Day. They want all electric cars.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they were fooling anyone when they pulled out of Afghanistan.
Cars.
Yep.
That don't go very far.
No.
I have a friend, he bought a car. He said, the car's wonderful, but, I'd go for an hour and a half, and I got to put a charger, and I can't find the charger.
No, my car will gladly do 3 hours. There's another car. Producer Jojo has a car that goes probably 6 hours of driving on the highway before you have to rapid charge it, which takes 12 to 18 minutes.
I'm going crazy.
Yeah. And at that point, she's flying.
And also, all the batteries and everything, the material comes all out of China.
Not all of it, no. And laws were passed so that that can't happen. But your people voted against it. But okay.
We have oil and gas, but we don't want the oil and gas cars. But we want everything.
Those still exist, by the way, people. There still are oil and gas cars. You can still buy yourself an oil and gas car.
Including electric cars, but we also want gasoline because the cars go long. Everything, but we don't want the oil and gas cars.
Yeah.
But we want everything.
Okay, so he wants everything, including the electric vehicles.
Including electric cars, but we also want gasoline.
After you just finished telling us that your friend bought an electric car and it doesn't go very far, you want electric cars. Okay.
Because the cars go longer, and they're preferred by many people.
Okay. Right, and that's what's happening right now. President Biden said in his State of the Union address, we're going to need oil and gas for a decade or more.
We don't like quick drives that are stopped for 2.5 hours.
That's not a thing.
It's April Fool's.
Again, no one is fooling anyone. Not what April Fool's means.
They want all electric stoves all over the country.
That some do. I use an electric stove. It's great.
But we don't have the electric power for that.
We do have electric power for the stoves. We don't have enough electric power right now to have electric cars. If everybody had an electric car, we wouldn't have the power to handle that. That's true. But the electric stoves, yeah, pretty easily.
And we want electric stoves, but we also want gas stoves. It's April Fool's.
Okay.
Why do they want that?
At Random hates her electric stove. There's different types, but yeah, some of them take a long time. Gas stoves are great too. I know but it's using up resources that are in finite supply. So
they want windmills all over the place that ruin our fields, kill our birds, and
produce electricity that you're just complaining we don't have enough of. Got it.
Are very unreliable.
Ruin our fields.
And are the most expensive energy ever developed. We want oil, gasoline, natural gas because it's cheaper, better, and much more powerful. It's April Fool's Day.
The air fryer is electric, gallon of stew. But yeah, people love their air fryer. I wish I had more to do with my air fryer.
Under my leadership, we will regain energy independence that we had 3 years ago.
Right, we're actually more energy independent now than we were under Trump. But go on.
We were on our way to massive energy dominance. We would have been paying off.
What does that mean, dominance?
Our debt, because energy is big numbers. It's not like...
No, that's not. The debt doesn't get the money from the energy. That's not how that works. We raise money through taxes, not from selling oil.
You're selling a little product. You're selling the biggest product of all, is energy.
Does he think the United States government owns the oil?
We would have been paying off our debt. We would have been the...
That's socialism.
Strongest. You know, we're already bigger under my administration, bigger than Saudi Arabia or Russia.
Okay.
We're going to be much bigger than both of them combined.
Okay.
Within about a year, we would have made the kind of money they're making times 5.
Okay, but then COVID hit under your administration.
And we would have been paying off debt, and we would have been reducing taxes. And
no, that's not the way that works at all. We don't get that money. It's not the government's money. If you're advocating that, yes, the public should own the oil underneath the ground. I'm 100% with you on that. It's not how it works.
It would have been a beautiful thing. But
we don't have a national gasoline company.
They came in and they said...
But hey, if you want to be Venezuela, you go right into it.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
I will fight for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress.
Okay. But again, he can't pass a constitutional amendment. The president's almost completely out of that whole process. It's the states, 2/3 of which have to ratify. We can't even get an equal rights for women amendment ratified. We don't do constitutional amendments anymore.
And I will move heaven and earth to fully and finally secure our elections. All Republican governors should immediately go for paper ballots, one-day voting, and voter ID.
Yeah, 95% of ballots are already paper. And we don't need one-day voting. That then disenfranchises a whole bunch of Americans. And Republicans could have had voter ID. But they all fought. You have to get 60 senators to agree on it. So really, it's Republican senators' fault that we don't have universal voter ID. That was in bill number 1 that the Democrats tried to pass in the last Congress.
And the problem we have is we have governors, and some of them we like, and some of them we don't. But they're all talk. Think of it. They control the state. And we have a lot of governors.
No, they don't control the state. There's also legislatures, but okay.
They should go for that. Paper ballots, same-day voting,
right.
You know.
Yeah, every disputed ballot that we talk about from the 2020 election, all the ballots in all the swing states are paper.
France had 37 million people voting.
Yeah.
They
I think it's 36, but okay.
Voted in one day, and at 10:30 in the evening, they called the winner. There were no problems.
Right, it wasn't close.
Paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID.
Okay, we got a lot more people here, and every state gets to set their own rules. But if you want to destroy the Constitution and federalize the elections, you can do that if you want to.
They only had a little mail-in, and we would have this too, for soldiers that are very far away or people that are legitimately sick. okay, legitimately, as opposed to millions and millions of ballots flooding the offices. They used COVID to cheat. But until that day comes, Republicans must compete using every lawful means to win. That means swamping the left with mail-in votes, early votes, and election day votes. Have to do it.
Okay, then go ahead and vote.
We have to change our thinking because some bad things happened. You know, we like, for some reason, Republicans like to vote on Election Day, right?
Okay.
The problem is you get there.
Because you told them to.
And they have so many already started. But worse, if you take a look at Kari Lake in Arizona, where they waited and waited. Don't vote now. Wait till Tuesday. Wait till Tuesday.
Right, which was stupid.
Wait till Tuesday.
Right, you got all this early voting. You can do absentee, but wait, don't vote and make it easy on yourself. Make it more difficult.
And in the Republican areas,
yeah,
a tremendous percentage of the machines were broken and you couldn't vote. And they had
schlaff and tickle. I like that. That's a knee slaffer.
Lines that were a mile long.
No, there were no lines a mile long.
All over the place, Republican areas.
Nonsense.
And they couldn't vote. They said, come back in 7 hours. But people can't do that. They have Little League.
By the way, the problems were in Maricopa County. That's not Republican territory.
They have doctors. They might love Kari. They might love the Republican Party and everything we stand for. But
they make love?
7 hours.
Yeah.
But people can't do that. They have Little League. They have doctors.
They have doctors. They have doctors that take all day long.
They might love Kari. They might love the Republican Party.
They mate love?
And everything we stand for, but they can't do that.
They can't because they've got all day long doctor appointments.
And they were
By the way, if you're in the hospital, they have ways that you can vote.
Standing in the hot sun for hours and hours. And then they sent in mechanics to fix them. And when the mechanics left, they were far worse.
What?
And
mechanics?
They lose those cases in courts because our judges have no courage to do what's right.
Okay.
They have no
By the Trump-appointed judges?
courage to do what's right.
Yeah, they don't have the courage.
I can tell you that.
This is all, by the way, this is all nonsense. What Trump is saying right now about the elections being rigged and stolen, complete nonsense. They don't send in mechanics to fix voting machines. But what they did do is they took ballots and took them downtown or wherever the voting machines were that were working, and they counted them there, as is standard procedure. They followed everything to the letter of the law in the last election.
That was the case in 2022, where we can't get rid of drop boxes. We need them in every church.
Drop boxes.
What we have to do, we have to put our own drop boxes in. Zuckerbucks spent $500 million.
No.
And, you know,
you cannot put your own drop boxes in.
If you contribute,
but please do.
Contribute $5,700.
Yeah.
$1 more than that to a candidate, they put you in jail.
I'm not even going to check that figure. That could be right.
This guy gave
somewhere
$500 million. For all of this crap that they were doing, shenanigans. They were handing out the money like it was candy.
What?
And that's fine. But if
candy costs money.
When people are going to jail for spending like $93.
By the way, no one hands out candy for free anymore.
Too much. Because it's not according to election law.
What?
And until we can eliminate ballot harvesting, we will become masters at ballot harvesting. We have no choice. Beating the
Until we eliminate ballot harvesting, we will become masters at ballot harvesting. Oh, wow, great Jedi Master. Tell us more.
Democrats at their own game.
Oh, Waldo's there.
And we'll do it legally. The agenda I've laid out today will end America's destruction. But it is not enough just to stop the forces tearing America down. I want once again to build America up. We have to build our country. We don't build anymore. All we do is...
Okay, tell us more about the infrastructure and how you didn't get it done.
Investigate everybody. You ever see television?
I have seen television.
You know, it used to be...
Yeah? What's going on television, Mr. Trump?
It built our military. We were proud of it. We'd be doing all things. All you see on things...
doing all things. Remember that? If you guys have ever seen television, they're doing all things.
Investigation, investigation, investigation. Now, with that being said, you got to look at Hunter. I mean, how crooked is that deal? But, you know.
Right, but what's going on with television? You're breaking news about television.
It's not something I'd like to not do anything. I'd like to get back to building our country and making our country great again.
Uh-huh. But you never passed an infrastructure law. In fact, there was never even a hearing in Congress on Infrastructure Week. Not one. 4 years. No infrastructure.
But it's time to start talking about greatness for our country. Okay. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living, especially for our young people.
Okay,
Oh,
he's got to go after the young people now. It's the young people. They didn't vote for you, Mr. Trump, not by a wide margin. Okay, we'll tell you what. We'll tell them we're going to make America great for the young people.
Announced yesterday we will hold a competition to build new freedom cities on the frontier to give countless Americans a new shot at home ownership and the American dream.
We will build freedom cities on the frontier. What the hell is he talking about?
Standard of living, especially for our young people. As I announced yesterday, we will hold a competition for our country. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living, especially for our young people. As I announced yesterday, we will hold a competition to build new freedom cities on the frontier to give countless Americans a new shot at home ownership and the American dream. It's such a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I'll challenge the governors of all 50 states, to join me in a great beautification campaign. We will rename our schools and boulevards, not after communists, but after great American patriots. We will get rid of bad and ugly buildings.
I had to record that. Especially, I didn't even know that we were going to talk about the great American spates. All 50 of them.
And return to the magnificent classical style of Western civilization. We will support baby boomers.
I don't know where the frontier is.
And we...
Like near Denver?
We will support baby bonuses for a new baby boom. How does that sound? That sounds pretty...
That sounds like socialism.
On a baby boom. Oh, you men are so lucky out there. You're so lucky.
Wow.
You are so lucky, men. Our country will shine, thrive, and prosper.
So we're going to give people bonuses for having babies. Well, that is just not what we do as a country. That's what, for example, Canada does. That's what China does in the reverse. But okay.
Like never before. All of this is within our reach, but only if we have the courage to complete the job, gut the deep state, reclaim our democracy, and banish the tyrants and Marxists into political exile forever. They are bad for us. They want us to fail. They want our country to go down. They are sick people. Change only happens if we plow fearlessly ahead and declare with one voice that the era of woke and weaponized government is over. That is our task.
Right.
That is our mission.
Yep.
And this is the turning point and the time for that decision. Because as you've probably heard me say before, we will not back down. We will not bend. We will not quit. We will not yield.
Hi, Tom. You missed like 3 hours of this nonsense. By the way, Trump wants to pay people to have babies now. And then he's going to build freedom cities on the frontier.
We will press forward with...
One voice. Yeah. We know. We're going to make America safe and we're going to be profitable.
We will press forward with vigor.
Vigor and vim.
We will push onward. And we will finish what we started. We started a great, great positive revolution. Nobody's ever seen anything like it before.
I don't know.
It's called... Make America Great Again. We want to make America great again.
Well, then if it's making America great again, that implies that America was great, and so we have seen something like that before, sir.
We will cross the finish line. We will dismantle the deep state. We will demolish woke tyranny, and we will restore the
woke tyranny,
American Republic to all of its radiant.
And we will outlaw pronouns of any kind, and that'll show that
glory. And with God's help and your support, we will make America powerful again. We want to have a powerful country.
Yeah.
We need to have a powerful country.
What about wealth?
We will make America wealthy again.
Okay. But sometimes I feel unsafe.
We will make America strong again.
Strong.
That's
then
what we want.
If
we
you
want
make it strong, then maybe I'll feel safe.
We will make America, think of your heart pounding.
Yeah.
We will make America proud again.
Oh, proud. Okay, that's
we will make
pounding. I was thinking, because my heart was pounding, that I was in danger of some kind, because that's my heart pounds when I'm scared, and then so I want the safety. So I'm waiting.
America safe again, not like our streets of the cities, which are a disgrace for the entire world to watch. And
the entire world is not watching, by the way.
We will make America great again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's a very, very low energy, Make America Great Again.
CPAC.
What are they going to play? They're going to play YMCA? Anybody got any bets?
Thank you. Thank you very much, God. Thank you.
Where's the music?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, no, he's doing that other dun 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 dun. Can't play that because I'll get a copyright strike right away. So I hope they don't give me one for that 3 seconds. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Honestly, I can take these off. Good. My ears hurt so much. That was, wow. That was, you guys are quite a bit behind, by the way. Not that it matters. I don't even see how long I've been broadcasting. It doesn't even say. Wait, yeah, it should. Who cares? Oh, there it is. 3 hours. We hit the 3 hour mark. Yay. We did it, everybody. Good. Go enjoy your Saturday. Sorry to take up your time like this. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Tune in again. I'm going to try and do more broadcasting. My back is starting to feel slightly better, so I can sit for longer periods of time. Plus, I'll be honest with you, I am absolutely smothered with this biofreeze stuff. So I'm comfortably numb right now. Gallon Stew, good to see you. Jessica at random, and Stephanie, Marcy. I saw Tim in here. I saw all kinds of people in here. I saw Tom in here. Tom, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Producer Rich was in here earlier. Thank you, Producer Rich, for the PayPal donation. Keith was in for a while, and Kayath as well. Owen was around. I said at random already. So thank you, everyone. Tracy was here quite a while ago too. I don't know if she's still here. So good night, everyone. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Most importantly, make sure that you pay for babies and get yourself a freedom.